episode of the Cantina Chronicles. I'm Grant.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
In anticipation of the upcoming Acolyte 2-part premiere on June 4th, we are going to be ranking all the shows, all the Star Wars shows, prestige shows, live action, animation, all of it. And we're each going to have our final order, if you will, our lists.
I like final order.
Present them.
I don't know how I didn't think of that.
Just round robin? Are we going to go around like snake draft? Like, how do you guys want to present our lists, or all at once? What were you guys thinking?
I was just thinking we each take a turn going 1 through 8. I don't know how else to do it. I mean, I guess we could go round robin 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, but I don't know. I feel like, what do you think, Adam? You know how to gamify stuff.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was trying to think about this as well. So it might just be easiest to kind of just, maybe we just each go do our 8, talk a bit about, and then we can kind of like discuss why we had what we did, where we did.
Right. It's not a competition. The information will shake out. It doesn't matter if like the end of it, like we should just go Grant, Adam, Ben, and I'll just, then it'll be fine.
Yeah, and again, this isn't a draft, so we can all pick. We can all have the same number one. We can all have the same number 2.
Yeah. We are gonna have the same number 1. And just prediction right now, but it'll be fun to look at similarities and differences.
You'd think with the diversity on this panel,
whatever number 1 is, I'll still love you. Just for that.
Well, I will also talk about why my number 1 changed because of the way we're doing this. So I have a little bit of like asterisks around some of my ones because you know me, I can't take a simple, easy direction without trying to break it apart and completely mess with it. So we'll get there.
I'm so excited for this, guys. Do you guys want to roll a chance cube or something?
Oh man, I always love to roll a chance cube.
Yeah, always. That's the answer is always yes.
Chance cube real quick.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Well, it's only red or blue, so that's tough.
I mean, I'll still roll a chance.
We're already in a tough spot. Let's just go by guesses. So, Ben, red or blue?
Red.
Adam, you pick red or blue?
Red.
Okay, Ben.
Blue.
All right, Ben, you're going first, and then clockwise from there. Since we're not in a room together, Adam, then me.
Okay.
All right.
Whatever. That works. Let's do it.
That works.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I love it.
It's the only way you can do with 2 cups.
We're going bag order.
All right. Well, then I'm excited to get us started off here. Cool. You all can hear me, right? Everything's coming through fine?
Yeah, you sound great. Yeah.
Meow check. Okay. I'm paranoid after last week. I thought something
do we have
went down. So,
Check. Is it in the can? Check the gate.
I know. I was just like, tell we have sound people on this thing, not me.
So this was a hard thing to do for me because I mean, but I wanted to do it as just like an exercise, and it's not like, I mean, number 8 I will watch and enjoy just as much as number 1. So it's sort of like my rankings are always like, if I had to, watch a Star Wars and I could only pick one thing and I'm on a deserted island or something, this is the order that would be like the desire to watch it today. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone, but I'm hoping like, people will hear this and be like, oh, I like this thing at 7. So maybe something around there might be, if I like that, maybe I'd really like this thing you have ranked at 1, or, I mean, I think 1 we probably all have. I just rewatched it. It's Andor, and it was. I just love Andor so much. I can't get enough of it. I think it's just the writing's so amazing, and it's just like the music's beautiful. It's just like this really. It's a outlier for Star Wars, but it's just the greatest show. Is that what you all had as well?
Yes.
Never heard of it.
No, yeah. Yes, that is what I have. Since we are ranking currently all the shows, or each show in total, that is my number 1. I did have a separate number 1 when I had things broken out by seasons, but we can talk a bit about that later. But yeah, totally number 1. It's just like it's as much as like sometimes I don't want to admit it's number 1 because
it's so far from George's like central idea.
Yeah,
it is an outlier in a lot of ways.
Yeah. but it's just, but it also shows that you can still do Star Wars. You can still be a Star Wars and be something different, right? And that's what I appreciate. So still Star Wars, very
it's still
much.
Very much a Star Wars.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still getting all the essential Star Wars beats, except it's just a completely new flavor, and it just feels like, oh, anything is possible in the galaxy far, far away. Tony Gilroy can come in and write this espionage, thriller of, one of the first rebels on the run. It's so cool. Like, it's such a great show.
All right, I have a new way to do this.
All right.
So the way I've seen this done in other podcasts since we're doing this live on air, is that we kind of go. So we each did number one. Ben, you'll do your number two. We'll go. Once we've all mentioned the same show, that's when we can discuss the show.
Okay.
And I will keep track. Does that make sense?
All right.
So and I'll be the one that's saying stop. Let's talk about it. Right. So since we just did it, because I think that worked well with we all did Andor 1. We talked about it. We hit about it because then when we get to the next one, we could talk about it and also talk about why we had it where we had it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
look at this structure.
Cool.
Just building the plane while it's flying. I love this.
Yep.
So
Ben, what do you got for your?
Yeah, we're doing our Andor talk right now, right? Because it's also
exactly. So let's talk Andor.
So it's like let's just get it all out there. It's just the writing is next level.
Yeah,
it's like it's
one
of those shows that it is, and it elevates past its genre, right? Which is sometimes a tricky thing to talk about because sometimes it feels like you're opening the door and welcoming in a group of people that you're not used to seeing, which are critics, right? Like people who like that. Sometimes if you like something that's very genrefied, you get sometimes nervous that people are going to come in and not understand it or judge you, right? It's that weird geek nervousness that a lot of us grew up with. And I've gotten over that as I've gotten older, where I'm like, I love that other people love something that I love, right? Even if it's they only love Andor. And I had a very frustrating conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago, which I won't talk about too much on air. But basically talked about how Andor is the only good Star Wars thing and everything else stinks. And I could have gotten into a long argument with him about it in a fight, but it was also my wife's birthday party, so I was not going to do that.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? He loves Andor, and I love Andor.
Right.
So let's just talk about Andor. Then,
right. Yeah.
Right. Let's just talk about something we all love. So it is kind of this thing where it's just it does seem to be one of those things where it just elevates past Star Wars. It's an amazing Star Wars. It's also just an amazing show. And part of me was actually thinking that might win the Emmy for best show of the year. It didn't, but I thought it was a good chance that it could have actually got it.
They might do it retroactively in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It did not win some Emmys for set design, like production design.
Yeah, I think it won some of the technicals, which is always good. But it was one of the ones that I thought it might have had a shot for best drama, but I think it was also Succession was going on.
Screenplay, honestly like the show.
So good,
best writing essentially.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons I thought of doing this ranking thing was one of my bandmates asked me. He was like, "Is Andor?" And we started talking about Disney. He's thinking if he should get it for a month or something. He's like, "Is there anything good on Star Wars?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And but I was like, "Have you?" Yeah, and I was like, "Have you seen Andor yet?" And he was like, "What's an Andor?" And I was like, "Bro,
what's an Andor?
Let me tell you what an Andor was." So I'm just like,
let
okay,
me tell you.
If people don't know that other shows exist, then let me help the mouse out a little bit here and guide you in the right direction. There's lots to love out there.
That's a good point. Is Andor is a caveat-free recommendation to non-Star Wars fans. Does that make sense? Like I can wholeheartly. People are like, I don't know if I like it. I'm like, just watch Andor, you'll like it. If it's a Mandalorian, we got to have a bit of a conversation about maybe set you up a little bit on that, little bit. But Andor, I think is weirdly the one that you just be like, no, just watch this, and they'll get it and appreciate it.
Yeah. Did you have anything more you wanted to say about Andor, Grant, before we jumped all over?
Oh. I have so much to say about that show, but I feel like we'll probably come back to it as we talk about other shows in this list because it's so good. It's such a high watermark for Star Wars that you're just we're inevitably going to be talking about it throughout the episode.
Yeah,
I think it's it saved is the wrong word, but I think it re-legitimized Star Wars television.
Yeah.
In a way that Iger and Disney Plus were a little more willing to bank on it because they've kind of stated that they're moving away from the live action shows in all of their things and moving more towards theatrical. And we've seen quite a bit of that actually happening with Marvel. And I've been waiting for that other foot to drop with Star Wars, and it doesn't seem to have happened. And I think part of that is Andor, is that they had a critical hit on their hands that they had not seen anywhere else, right? And so I think that we're very lucky, because I think that show is paving the way for Ahsoka season 1 and 2, Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Mando stuff, right? Like I think it's allowing Star Wars to play in a lot of different areas that it wasn't before. So
yeah, they're just making good content, man. And I guess that I can dovetail that into my number 2 choice, which is The Mandalorian. Like I don't know. I think that's fairly ubiquitous, and I think you can sort of walk into that. And I think a lot of people did. I mean, Grogu was everywhere. He's still everywhere. I mean, granted, that's the like Star Wars marketing machine, but like for a while, it was fire. People were into that. It wasn't like Game of Thrones popular, but I'm sure they have a lot of streams for that.
It broke the internet for sure. All right, great. What's your number 2?
Well, it's going to be boring if I go second, because it's also The Mandalorian.
That's okay.
Wow.
So it is not my number 2.
Oh,
okay.
So we're going to hold off on it for like a minute. My number 2.
It's just quintessential Western Star Wars, and that's just a commodity I had wanted for a very long time, and so it just checked a lot of just boxes. I don't know, sort of imagery, settings, new lore, like remnant Imperials, the desert, lava flats of Navarro, like I don't know. There's just so much about it that I like.
Yeah.
The volume and sort of the sets feel a little claustrophobic at times. It just feels like that digital rendering is like on top of you, and it's feels tight, but that will just get better over time. So I think people should stick with it, because I think it's just going to get more vast.
It did get better over. Well, we'll talk about it when it comes up, when we get the last one, and I'll go full into it. Adam, what was your number 2?
My number 2 is Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes, I went from, and I'll just say a sentence and then we'll move on to number 3. I went from maybe the best Star Wars to the most Star Wars. Like Ahsoka in my book is the most Star Wars that's ever Star Wars. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. All right,
okay,
Ben, what's your
some
number 3?
Variants here. I hope you're keeping score. Obi-Wan is my
That's
number
fun.
3.
I am. Okay.
All right. Wow.
All right. I love this. All right.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Maybe
number 3
maybe soon. Maybe not.
Ahsoka.
Grant.
I think it's time for Ahsoka, because 3 is Ahsoka for me. So if you want to get into
all right, we're not.
It's truly special. It's
we're
the
not
Force
there yet. We
sensitive
got to.
Mandalorian.
We
It's
can't.
essentially like let's do the Force, and let's bring back a legendary character to do this with, as well as other incredible, iconic characters from animation that you never thought you'd see in live action. But then when you see them, you're like, this is the new sort of like connective synergy I want to see in live action sort of shows, and what they can be with the animation, the extended lore, and the comics. Like if you bring in Son of Staros or Dr. Aphra into the live action prestige, series verse, like so many people are flocked to Star Wars. I promise you. There are so many characters even from the comics that I think could just spill over into these shows, and I don't know.
Which you don't need any backstory. You just throw them in there. They're I mean, Son of Staros and
they're just
and
great
Dr. Aphra are like they're great characters, easily understood with a quick intro and whatever. Like again, I keep telling my wife, I'm like, your favorite Star Wars character, you haven't even met your favorite Star Wars character yet. So I keep saying to her about Dr. Aphra, where I'm like, you haven't even met your favorite character yet.
I feel like the ultimate Solo too is like Han Solo, Son of Staros, Lando, Jabba. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. To me, it's like that's the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right, but we will do more Ahsoka talk at some point in the near future.
But anyway, Balin's Skull,
interesting.
Just elevates Ahsoka. Like Balin's
we'll get
Skull, Shin Hati, Sabine is awesome in the show. I love her blocking.
I feel like he's trying
in
to
the
talk you into
armor at times. Where I'm just like,
here.
do you ever see Mandalorians move like Sabine? Like I think she's just a cooler sort of like she's like out of the Matrix sort of Mandalorian. I love it.
All right,
okay.
We gotta hold it.
Yeah.
We gotta hold it. All right. My third is, and now we can finally talk about it in more detail. My third is Mandalorian.
So now we talk about
we're not
Mandalorian.
far off, right? So we had high on the
Your
list.
thoughts?
2, it's the second position for both of me, third for me, so it's top tier of those. I will say very quickly, because I haven't had a lot to say about Mando, is the reason it's number 3 for me is because originally when I was doing this list, Ben texted out this idea for this, and I misread the intro, which is like all the seasons. So I'm like, oh, so I'm gonna break them apart by seasons.
Wow.
Got it. So like I literally broke everything up by seasons. Mando season 1 was my number 1, above even Andor. Mando season 1 because of what it did. Mando season 2 is right around the 3rd spot, and then Mando season 3 was towards the bottom. So law of averages kind of brought it
To
down
3.
to
Okay.
3.
That's very scientific of you.
Yeah, it's kind of where I like in my head. I didn't actually average it out, but I'm like, that's where it feels like. It feels like it's below Ahsoka. It's kind of tied there, almost like they're both tied for 2. But like I agree. Like Mandalorian season 1's a revelation. Like I still remember sitting around your table at the old house, like the first place we started doing the podcast, talking about what Mando might be, and I don't think my brain was still able to actually connect the level that they're going to able to do that show at. Does that make sense? Like I kept going, well, it'll be a TV show and it'll look okay.
I thought it was going to be
so
whatever,
much worse.
but I thought it was going to look like, I don't know.
So yeah, same. We could talk about Agents of Shield. Right, that was our comparison point.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
I hope it doesn't look like this. That's exactly right. It's just like the fakest looking backgrounds and just like bad costumes, flat lighting.
And,
I don't know
my
why
memory,
I thought it would be that, but
yeah, I know, same. And I remember like literally waking up because that was a Disney Plus premiere, like the day Disney Plus launched, the Mando launched with it. And so I remember downloading. You could download the app the night before, but couldn't quite start it. So I downloaded the app that night. I was flying out to somewhere for a conference because it was the middle of November. I got up as I was like waiting for the Uber to pick me up at like the butt crack of dawn. I was downloading this thing onto my iPad. Had to wait through, go through security, all the stuff, get on the plane and start this thing. And I was just like literally crying by the end of it in the middle of a plane. And I think I watched that thing 5 times in a row on the plane. Like I just watched it over and over and over and over again. Like could not believe what I was getting like from a Star Wars show. So yeah,
great first episode too.
And then it continues, and then season 3 happens, which is fine.
It was very gritty at the start. He was like collecting bounties and fighting in cantinas and playing. And I was like,
bisecting people with a door
brawls and just collects bounties for the next 20 episodes.
Yeah, I'm in.
I could be fine with that.
Yeah, Disney doesn't know how to slow play anything. Except for Andor, they Kathleen, Kennedy just let him ride. Yeah, man, I mean, we didn't expect Favreau to just like reinvent filmmaking while he was doing that show. Like the volume was a significant step forward in doing these shows, and I don't know if they're touching it up over time because I'm convinced they're touching up like the movies every once in a while and just like re-releasing them on Disney Plus, and it's just like you get the version, like the most updated version there. That's what my like birds aren't real sort of conspiracy theory is.
I think McClunky is a major evidence of
McClunky,
that.
Right? Yeah.
So that and but I think they're doing it to Mando too, because I didn't notice the volume at all on my season. Like I watched all 3 seasons in a row, but seasons 1 and 2, I like in my memory it's like a very close room, but when you watch it, you're just like, dude, you're following the action. It's just like background stuff. Like it, I didn't feel it at all. It just like everything felt pretty good.
I agree. To me, the volume feels like a magic trick, which means like, magic is happening when you watch a magic trick. And so your brain is trying to figure out how the magic thing worked. And that's why you're falling out of it. So the volume is like, I'm like, I know they use the volume here. I think this crate's real.
Yeah.
And then this crate behind it's fake. Right. But you can't tell it. But you're trying to figure it out.
You
like
probably
Rise of Skywalker.
I just don't think you trust the soft focus backgrounds of the show. You're like, oh, if it's soft, it's probably just a digital element.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's the point, is like you're trying to figure it out. Similar to like Rise of Skywalker, not to bring a whole other thing, but like every time, like this is the first time I watched that movie, probably because I had been sleep deprived, where every time Leia was on screen, I wasn't trying to figure out where they took this from outtakes of episode 7. Because not that it's bad, but more of because like that's how they did it, and it's hard to separate out the fact
Leia
that Carrie
went
Fisher
to talk
passed
to
away.
Maz in like an early cut of The Force Awakens because she lands on the planet, and I was like, Oh, of course. She just goes and talks to Maz real quick, and she has Luke's lightsaber, and there's more exposition on Luke's lightsaber. Instead, they were just like, let's just keep Luke's lightsaber this complete mystery, and then which is a very lost approach.
I know. I
a little bit.
Yeah, as a lightsaber
little
nerd, I kind of missed seeing Luke's constructed Return of the Jedi lightsaber. I'm like,
But then if you
that's his
did do
lightsaber.
that, you'd have the whole like Leia is an awesome Jedi, and she could just use that lightsaber to help win this fight. Because that's all built into the Rise of Skywalker. If you're gonna create that whole Leia arc, she is this awesome Jedi. Like,
yeah. Well, I like it that she made her own. She was far enough in the training that she made her own lightsaber. I think that's even like give me more lightsabers. I thought that was great that they did it.
Always.
I just still like wish they had written in somehow Luke's Return of the
Leia
Jedi
busting
saber.
out a lightsaber would have been incredible in the sequel trilogy. I'll just say that right now. Anyways, we're
I know.
losing
Sorry,
track
that was
of
my fault because I
truth
mentioned Rise of
and
Skywalker.
just
I was like,
the
should I mention this? But
and just Werner Herzog like coming
Oh
on
my
screen.
God,
So
Werner.
Bill Burr, like I don't know. It was just constant crazy characters thrown at us.
Him and Nick Nolte kind of steal the season.
I always
Like,
forget Nick
they're
Nolte.
amazing.
He's so good. The other thing is, well, it's just this trust. It's like a Tarantino-esque, bringing back like Carl Weathers, like
Carl Weathers.
Carl Reiner.
Carl Reiner.
I mean,
wait.
Carl
Now
Weathers.
I'm annoyed that Carl Reiner wasn't in. I had watched Carl Reiner in the end, but no, like Carl Weathers, like
lots of pods and research lately. Sorry.
Rest in peace, rest in power. But like, man, like how
Weathers,
great was he? Because I saw he was in it. I was just like, I remember we cast him. Like, I love that casting because he's my childhood, right? Like Carl Weathers is my childhood. But I was just like, oh boy, does he have the chops? And they cast him perfectly.
Pure thespian.
Mendo.
Yeah.
I was just in love. I was like, this is my comfort. This is my safe place.
The saddest thing, maybe not the saddest thing because he was a real human being who left family behind, but the saddest thing for me, which also seems very trite, is that we're going to have the Mandalorian Grogu movie and we're not going to get a Mando. Like we're not.
That's tough.
Dude, that was
that's incredibly
first
tough.
thing I thought when I finished my rewatch was like, oh, Carl.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be tough to ride around Carl because he's like, here, have a home, live in my city. This one's on me. Take a rest, like, and he was a really good guy. I mean, except for the first season, but like when he came around and was healed by Grogu, he really took a 180 and became a much better person. And he always, I mean, it was to his benefit, but he was always good to the Mandalorian.
But he was always good. And I think he believed by the end of season 3, he was like fully in on that place of being like, this is it. I've like found a home and I've tried to make things better. And I just know, and no, it's great. And it's really just a bummer. Anyway,
so I don't know how
I have a tract of land for you. I was just like, let's go.
Yeah. I think they just need to be like, he's on vacation and like just let Mando go off on his adventures.
I've always wondered if the insane incident isn't the fact that like, because he's on the outskirts of town. And I just don't know if the remnant doesn't just raise the entire town, right? Like doesn't just blow up the entire town, and then.
But all right, but on the topic of the Mandalorian,
he has to die and scream.
There are episodes that are like, what is happening? Right? You're like, this is, there are episodes that sort of, they rise and then they wane. Sometimes
there's some
sometimes
misses. There's some misses.
What's going on here? Like, I don't know.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say one like Bryce Dallas Howard, who became one of my favorite directors in Star Wars. Like her like couple of seasons, the Book of Boba Fett episode she did, like other ones.
That's my favorite episode.
I think so. I think it's like number one.
Yeah.
Like but I'll say it. Her episode of season 1 is my least favorite Mando episode, which is like the
episode 4.
Episode 4, which again, not bad, but
the Seven Samurai episode.
Seven Samurai, and it was done like 24 minutes and like or however long, and it felt like whatever, So like, but like, so it's hit or miss. But I kind of miss the fact that the Mandalorian started out very episodic, and episodic television, if you watch like Star Wars or Star Trek, I should say, is very hit or miss. Like
I think Mando's episode 2, season 1 is still.
I think that's my number 1.
Like the Rick Famuyiwa, like he's fighting Jawas, and then like I don't know that episode.
Disintegrating. He's using the disintegration rifle
on Jawas.
And Jawas, you see Jawa like scraps of.
Is that the first time we see a disintegration rifle?
Yeah, I mean that rifle in and of itself. I mean,
like a hits target on screen, essentially.
well, I mean,
I think
we
so,
saw it
first-
in the cartoon in the
You
Christmas
were like,
special.
this is what it does to
True.
a target. John was-
The Faithful Wookiee.
Wow.
Yeah, because that one came out like 2 days later. Like episode 2 came out like a couple days later because I was still because it came out I think on Friday. I think like it dropped on Wednesday. It's so weird because it's so in my brain about being like having to bring my whole setup
Yeah,
with me to I can't remember. Couldn't tell you what state I was in.
I think it was
So like I remember having to
Sacramento.
like bring. It might have San Francisco. It would have been Sacramento, but it might have been because I was at
All right,
I was at
anyways,
a conference.
we-
It might have been
we-
San Francisco. Anyway, that is
digress.
irrelevant. But I remember that that second episode came out a couple days later, and watching it like on my hotel bed on my iPad, and just being like, they stuck the landing.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely stuck the landing. Like I just was like, I was warning what the second season episode is going to be. I'm like, it's even better. He's the egg. The whole thing about being obsessed about finding an egg.
That episode
Yeah.
to me with the egg at the end was just gross, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
It was, and it was so pointless. And he like almost died, like really died, and was just like,
Yes.
And they just cut
Like,
open the
legit,
egg, and they're like,
yeah.
"This is the like," and he just like walks away and is like,
They're
I can't.
psyched.
Yeah,
They're so happy about that.
there's so much you can do with a helmet, like acting, and it's just like these
Yeah,
subtle
I found that out with
nods.
the show too. I was like, he can just tilt it down, like Vader in the original trilogy, like just a tilt,
Yeah.
and just
Yep.
a slight look to the left or right, like just
Yeah.
it conveys like thinking, like
Yeah,
and
disappointment.
Mando has to be such
It's
a
very true.
strategist. And what I like about the Mando versus Vader is that Mando is just constantly strategizing and finding his exit and fighting people, like
Yeah.
mano a mano, or just fighting people, like straight up with his fist.
Yes.
All his
And-
gadgets.
and-
It's like, and him thinking with the helmet, like the way it moves around and conveys like him sort of gaming out the room and who's around him is just some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
And I mean, dude, some of the
It
most
is-
iconic lines I think in Star Wars. I mean, this is the way, like, gives me
Right,
feels that no other like Star Wars like quote does. Like,
And like Nick Nolte as Kuiil, like right away,
Yeah.
like just thrown at you right away. Oh, this is like an iconic character. Like this is great.
yeah,
This is maybe one of the best puppet performances since Frank Oz. And,
yeah. No, Kuiil.
Yeah.
Rest in power, Kuiil.
And they made him very John McClane like in that like he's constantly getting the blank kicked out of him, right? Like he's not this unstoppable force, right?
He
like
really
he
only has
just
Yeah.
as
He
Grant.
only has a 6-shooter now.
What's
Like
that?
he has like
His
one
reboot-
handgun,
Yeah.
and like that's kind of it. All his other. He had like all the weapons in the world for a while, and he's
Yep.
got a jetpack
he was
and a
he was
handgun.
he worked for the Empire. I think he says it explicitly too,
No,
doesn't he?
no.
He's like, I earned my freedom. Like I worked for the Empire.
No, I think you're talking
He
about
says something.
You're thinking
I
about
was
Are you
Miggs
talking about-
Mayfield?
Who?
No. Miggs Mayfield. Bill Burr.
Oh, Miggs Mayfield. No, Kuiil. Miggs Mayfield
Kuiil.
did, too.
Sorry,
he was on.
I thought
he's
you were
on
talking about
Quill.
someone- yeah.
I moved us.
he did. Yeah. He said he worked for 100
Yeah, he
years.
was,
He said
he was,
I
yeah.
worked an entire one of your lifetimes for the Empire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which a lot of
He's a
Arnauts
booker.
do, and and Filoni has put them on. I mean, they're well documented on Imperial
What
stations.
about Ludwig Göransson on the music in The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so
Change
good.
the whole game.
Yep.
That's game changer.
No, but absolutely. Like, come in and be like, we're not just doing John Williams, we're doing something different, right? And it feels like of a piece. But like I was just thinking about that. So by the end of season 1, you've killed off Kuiil and IG-11, right? Like
Yeah.
two pretty major characters that you've introduced in season 1, and they did not really bring them back. I mean, they brought IG-11 back a little bit in
it was a poetic.
season 3.
It was a poetic
in a funny
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Not counting
Um,
like Act 3 sequences in Star Wars that could be argued as a montage, that Kuiil rebuilding IG-11 is the best montage in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That-
Yeah.
like
teaching him how to
Or,
like
like-
do things, and he like crushes a lizard or something, or like almost crushes a lizard, like while he's learning to do things, and it's pretty.
Yep.
And the music's beautiful, and
oh, it's so good.
And then I will say it's been a love fest. I will say my issue with season 2, which is why it drops down, is it feels a little bit of like we have 8 episodes and 5 of the 8 episodes are backdoor pilots for other TV series. Like, I'm just saying, like, it feels like, oh, we're gonna introduce, here's Boba Fett, here's Ahsoka, here's
I feel like
Tad,
Tatooine should be one episode.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Like you get one Tatooine.
You
That's
get
the
one.
And then you gotta
other
pick
thing
yourself.
about
Yeah.
the Mandalorian is it got a little too dependent on Tatooine. Like a little
It's
too
one
much
bounty on Tatooine, and it's like a familiar face for us audience, and then done.
for
Like,
what's
it gives
supposed
us
to be
that
kind of a
opening.
backwater planet. Like, yeah. And then season 3, I like it just becomes a different show in season 3, right? Like it becomes the Mandalorians in my estimation, and not necessarily in a
There's
bad
some
way.
fun side
you know?
quests. I mean, you're right.
There
There are
are,
multiple
yeah.
Mandalorians pretty much in every episode, but
Mhm.
you know, with the
not
Jack
bad
Black
by
and
any stretch of the
Lizzo
imagination.
episode, right? Like that was super
Yep,
fun.
I think about that a lot.
The
With the
CSI
droids
Mandalorian.
and, like, yeah. No, there's a lot. I mean, I was not bored by that season, and I did not hate that
Yeah.
season. It just took me a while to adjust to. All right, we're doing something else. We're building out the mythos where the show started very small and focused. But I mean, again, by the end of episode 1 of the series, you've introduced a baby Yoda. Like you knew this thing had to get epic at some point. Right?
They showed
Like,
the
it had to get big.
liberation of Mandalore. Like that's a big season.
Yeah,
That's a big
yeah.
concept and thing to do.
Moff Gideon's also a huge deal in like the remnant Imperial,
Yeah.
forces. He's like he seems like he's running the Empire in that conference call he has with
He's
all
definitely
the
a
other
player. Yeah.
Moffs. He's kind of a boss.
Right. He was just a great vehicle to introduce that sort of Council of Warlords.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, totally.
It was great that we, each season we got a little further up the food chain where, like, Verna was pretty low on the totem pole, but that, like, was awesome.
Right.
And then it sort of moved up to Gideon, and then Gideon became a recurring, foe. And I have a bad feeling we haven't seen the last of Gideon either, like a clone or something. But I'm really kind of would like a different enemy at this point. Which I guess the next time we'll see him is the movie, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, Giancarlo Esposito is like, you can hang your hat on him as a bad guy. Like, you can't go wrong, but, like, I feel like that character's story is done. Like, similarly, like, I don't know what more you can do with him, right? Like, introduce
Let
a new
his
bad
death
guy.
mean something.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so we're on number 4s. Ben, what's your number 4?
Clone Wars. And now, Adam, I see what you meant by sort of litigating season by season. I didn't understand when you had first mentioned it. That would have been a lot more work. And
that's what killed me is when we got to the animated. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, no, I feel like, for the sake of our discussion, you have to talk about whatever we have in its entirety to date, right? So
Sure.
Yeah. If you want to say a couple of words, you can, because spoiler alert, it's going to be a while till we get to talk about Clone Wars.
Okay, yeah, no, it went 7 seasons. That it's like body of work. It was started by George Lucas with Filoni.
Yep.
But it's I think it probably has the most fans. I mean, definitely in the video game world, it's a big deal. So.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Other 4s.
Grant, what's your
My
4?
number 4 is Clone Wars as well.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh no. All right. Okay. Hold on to your butts. It's gonna be a while. All right. My number 4 is Obi-Wan, which is, Ben, your number 3. So we're not quite there. So we speed round through number 4s.
Okay.
What do you got for number
was my
5,
number 4?
Ben? Obi-Wan.
Okay. All right.
You have not. Yeah, we'll see when we get there, Grant.
All right.
It'll be very interesting. This is why it's great. This is where it gets interesting.
Obi-Wan.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
What's number
5?
5
5
for
you,
me
is
for
Ben?
Rebels.
Yeah. Rebels. All right.
Yeah. 5 for me is Bad Batch.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Bad Batch. All right. You and I match, Grant, because that is also my number 5 is Bad Batch. All right.
So
I think we're gonna.
It takes 2 of us to talk.
Hold it.
No, 3 takes
Nope,
3.
All 3.
Okay.
But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there in this next round. We're definitely gonna talk about something.
Yep.
I think has to mathematically. I think we have to. All right. What do you got, Ben?
Sorry,
Number
what
6.
was your 5, Adam?
Bad Batch as
Oh
well.
my goodness. Okay. You guys are going to love this. 6, Book of Boba Fett.
Oh boy. Okay.
6 for me is
Interesting.
Rebels.
Oh man, we're okay. All right. So, guys, it is time to talk about Rebels. Rebels is also my number
Okay.
6. And that's your number 5, Ben, right? Okay, so we're kind of in pretty close agreement here. 5s and 6s.
5s and 6s. This is an interesting
Why?
way to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about what Rebels mean to us, and also why did it kind of end up in that mid-range for us, do you think?
All right.
Any thoughts?
Firstly, I'll say Rebels only means anything to us because of Clone Wars. Then I'll say Rebels is an incredible show, written by Filoni and Kinberg and all the slew of writers I just absolutely love. That just knock out of the park with just all these great stories, just showing the sort of like the beginning, the advent of the sort of, or I guess not the advent, but this is the early rebel sort of like forces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time.
Hera
period.
and Ezra and Kanan and just the Ghost crew, and like it's just so good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love this show. And again, all of these things are like 1A through 1G, right? Like I love them all. But no, Rebels for me is important because yes, it was birthed because of the Clone Wars, but it was just so impressive to me that Filoni was able to make an entire ensemble of brand new characters and then really make I want to say a perfect Star Wars, like a perfect Lucasian Star Wars, according to like our own metrics with our pillars of Star Wars, like all the things that you need. All of those things are in there to perfection, like master and apprentice, and just like, I don't know it, but it was, I don't know. I love all these characters. And I think a lot of people fell in love with these characters, and that's not an easy thing to do. But the Ralph McQuarrie art, where they based the animation all off of McQuarrie's art, was like a choice. And I thought that was super fun. I mean, it was a really bold choice to do that. It's like a little different looking show, but like trying to be true to like the real roots of Star Wars. And yeah, man, I don't know. I just adore all these characters. And the rewatch, it's 4 seasons. It's a very tight watch. And I mean, by the end you're crying and like it goes wild places and it's great, man. It's a great Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so good. I Rebels came out in kind of a dark patch for my Star Wars fandom or viewership. I was trying to think, like, place it. I know exactly when I clued into Rebels, but I don't remember what was going on other than I think finishing up my dissertation, just not in a good place job wise. I was just kind of stressed. I was excited about like Force Awakens coming out and stuff like that, but like I just had checked out of, and we'll talk about this when we get to Clone Wars. I had already checked out of Clone Wars. I'd kind of like jumped out around season 3 or 4 of the Clone Wars, to be completely honest. Like I was just like not following week to week. The other stuff came up. I was just kind of like I was like just doing my rereads of Star Wars. So anyway, I just kind of checked out, and I knew Rebels happened, but I'm like, it's a kid show, like little kid show, not for me, right? Just don't need to do it. Was not a completist at the moment. I was at Disney World of all places, and there was in MGM Studios or Hollywood Studios. There's like a launch bay area that has Star Wars stuff. So I went in there because still a Star Wars fan, and they had a giant mock-up. And I think this is like between season 2 and 3 of Rebels, and they just had like giant like mock-ups of all the artwork and stuff. And I walked by, and I was just like, what is this? I was just like my nephew. I was just looking at this, and I'm like, huh, maybe I should check this out. Like maybe I actually owe this something. And so
based on the art,
went home and yeah, like the art was amazing. And I thought like, this looks interesting, and like recognizing the McQuarrie drawings and putting in live action, like all that stuff. And they had shown some clips from it. And I'm like, all right, let me check it out. And I remember like kind of arms crossed, got home, watched the first episode of the first season, and just being like, at the end of the day, I'm like, that's a Star Wars. Like the first episode, like just such a wonderful job of figuring out like all of those things that we talk about. All the pillars of Star Wars are hit on that. The found family aspect, like the building of it. And then literally I watched the first 2 seasons in, I think, 24 hours. And like by the end of the second season, you get to the Ahsoka Vader duel.
Oh, so
right.
good.
Already.
Which is one of the best moments in all of Star Wars. And I will always argue that all of Star Wars, that scene is one of the best moments in all of Star Wars, live action.
Obi-Wan, where you have a similar moment,
yes.
But this one feels like the first time you're actually seeing someone chop like a slice of Vader's helmet off and unveil
and recognizing
whatever state he's in.
That's Anakin
at this point.
Yeah, it's so.
And it's the McQuarrie helmet, like you guys have been saying. It's like Vader is truly intimidating in the show. He looks terrifying.
And then, so I got caught up and then waiting for season 3. And then the problem I found when you binge a show and get caught up is that I've always found that once you get caught up and you're watching it week to week, my enjoyment drops off because it's different types of how I was intaking it, right? And so I was like, it wasn't as good. And then before Ahsoka came out, we were doing this. I think I watched all 4 seasons, and it goes down so fast and so easy that I'm like, boy, is that just a tight 4-season story
really
arc
is.
of just like, it's so well written. There's no fat on that. I thought there was so much fat where I was just like, I was thinking about like how I might be like, oh, watch these episodes to Carly, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. Like maybe there's like 1 episode a season I'd cut out, but everything is moving the plot forward in those seasons. Like it's wild.
The episode you'd think was the fat, which was like the Chopper focused episode where he wants a new leg and he gets abandoned by accident, gets left behind. That like out of that they find their new rebel base, and it was and a bunch of other things happened that changed massive parts in the plot in that episode. That's my one caveat that maybe I should say for later, but like I really need to see the whole picture before I can really appreciate it fully. So like Ahsoka is an unfinished product.
That's fair. It is.
Granted, Andor technically is too, but it's like it doesn't matter if season 2 is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'll always have season 1.
We also know where Andor leads to. So as much as unfinished, we do know what the third act of Andor is, which is
right.
Which
the third act is Rogue One, right? We're going to see the second act in season 2, right? So I'm guessing
it could go
it's
way
going
off the
to be
rails.
amazing. I'm feeling I'm bullish on season 2 of Andor.
I am too. The other thing I'll say about Rebels is I think Rebels is the key to the Mandoverse in terms of just like we talk about Favreau, and Favreau does a good job of translating this to live action. But boy, is the Mandoverse just Filoni's pet. Like, do you know what I mean? And it just and you watch that and watching Ahsoka, which we'll talk about soonish. We have to because we're almost there. Is like that just feels like it's just like as much as like it's not season 5 of Rebels, it's season 5 of Rebels. Yeah. Like it just is. But we'll talk about it. I think Rebels is the key.
Incredible, like you guys said, with the art style and the plotting and just all that they get up to with Ahsoka, and the Obi-Wan Maul episode is, I don't know, it's just operating on.
Oh my god, that episode
it's so good. That little fight is awesome. He copies the Qui-Gon move.
Yeah,
and tries
he changes his stance. He starts as in like Obi-Wan's classic stance, and then moves to Qui-Gon's stance. Oh my god, that alone.
It's so good.
Ben's at home just.
Oh my gosh, that's like the scene in Logan where they take the cross and they turn it into an X. Like that's how I feel like when he changes stances. I'm like, oh, it's on, and then just like ends him in one move, totally dispassionately. Like, he, Filoni gets why everyone loves old Ben, the hermit.
No, it's so true, and I mean, I forgot the end of the story too. Is that, then it made me go back and finish Clone Wars and thoroughly appreciate Clone Wars. Right?
See, I'll only argue that Clone Wars is higher on my list, higher than Rebels at least, because to me it's like the text. It's almost like George Lucas, director's cut Star Wars, like nonstop into your veins. Like it is just, and it's just like always a different planet, and it's just always a new environment, and you're always learning new bits of lore. Just for sheer lore too. Like if you watch the Clone Wars, you're going to learn about all of the planets and the existing relationships before they're all then manipulated and commented on as time goes on. In the galaxy, and so you get a good basis for the galaxy with the Clone Wars. And I also argue that it's a great text for creatives in the Star Wars playing field. It's like
it's all the text.
I have a controversial statement, but I will save it.
I'm sure Clone Wars is coming up.
All right, so
have we all said our 6 now? Anything more anyone wants to say about Rebels?
Rebels is.
No, I think I'm good. It's amazing. It's again, we're talking about. These lists are just like it's number 6 on mine, but boy, would I happily go and sit and watch Rebels.
No,
right
exactly.
I don't even like things really. I don't believe in that whole idea to list your favorite things. list what's better.
Yeah.
They're all great. It's just that I think the Acolyte.
It's like what you're feeling at the moment.
Throw together a list of sort of all the shows and what we've thought of them thus far. So.
It's a statement of preference, which is a statement of personal taste, which everyone has their own personal taste.
Exactly.
That should be honored.
Yep. We're not trying to yuck anyone's yums.
Yeah.
We're just talking about.
Speaking of personal taste, what's your number 7?
Yeah, there you go.
What's real low?
It's gotta be.
Ahsoka.
All right, let's talk Ahsoka.
So again,
let's just hold on. Before
let's
recap for our listeners, because this one is this and Clone Wars are gonna be fascinating because it is most disparate in our lists. So I had it at number 2, Grant had it at number 3, Ben, you have it number 7.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about these are all lists of like they're all tight together, but like that's a pretty big.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So let's
Ahsoka
Grant
is
say or Ben say your
Rebels.
piece.
How is it so low?
Yeah, I know. So all right. So let me give you these caveats. Like, firstly, it's not finished, and like that. I just it's great. Like all the parts of it are awesome, but I don't know. It's a very unfinished product to me, and I kind of need to get the full vibe of a thing before I can really judge it. And I was so I don't know. I wanted some things answered. Like it felt like a season of Lost or something, where it just sort of
felt
like,
very J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Yeah, like it asked more questions than it answered. And listen, it's a blast, and I'm sure when it's done, it's gonna be a really like I'm gonna love revisiting it over and over again. But for right now, I think it's actually kind of a slow moving show, but we don't necessarily know that yet. And then, when you see sort of the next season, we'll sort of get a sense of the pace. But I think it's a little more meditative. It's like, it's not Mandalorian. It's not like, all right, next episode. It's sort of like going out. So it gets a 7 because it gets an incomplete for me.
Yeah.
Though I love, I love the ride.
Yeah, there's stuff towards the end of the show that feels very pulpy and sort of not on tone with the rest of maybe what's happening earlier in the season, which is like it really tries to set up this mysterious, mystical, tone to the piece. And then it's like a big zombie fight at the end, and then it's jumping onto a ship and using and the kind of like Sabine like unceremoniously uses her force powers. Like it's obviously a major moment in the episode, but you almost wish like there was a little bit more build up to that and it being a bigger moment, almost like a really big moment. I don't know. It felt like I gotta jump on something real quick, and it was I wanted like this has to happen, or I don't know, like or something that's like stopping a ship, or I don't know, doing something that's just like whoa, music shift, like not just it worked and they're off. It's like it's like almost like hinges on that moment or something.
Well, I mean, there was the belly of the whale moment, right? That was a pretty big thing.
Yep.
That's probably the biggest. And there's this Force Temple battle and the first face off with Stevenson and Ahsoka, Baylan Skoll and Ahsoka. Those are probably the biggest moments, but you're right. There's like, I don't know.
So I'm just trying to kind of level with you. You have it pretty low on the list, and I'm just like, there's moments that like the Night Troopers and all that stuff, like it doesn't always work for me. I don't know.
I really liked the Night Trooper scene.
Okay.
I do like, I like the Thrawn entrance with the Night Troopers. That's a pretty iconic scene. Yep. That's a pretty great one. Yeah, I'm not saying it's poor quality at all. I love every.
You meant the zombie stuff.
Sorry,
right?
the episode
zombie
5,
stuff,
like them chanting is incredible. It's like high art. It's just later. I think it's probably a different director. It doesn't even look like that. That scene, like the way they're portrayed later, is a way different lighting.
Yeah,
it almost looks like a small little stone chamber, and I don't know, it for me, like them on that Star Destroyer that was some of the best Star Wars to ever Star Wars.
Yeah.
Music.
It's a little bit. I'd see like a lot of these things. It's sort of like in how you explain it, or if you explain it. If it's just like, they're zombies and we're never going to talk about that again. You know what I mean by an incomplete? Like, okay.
But I think it was just the glowing of like the green and like the
Yeah.
visors. Where I was just like, are we really? I don't even need that really. It's almost scarier for like they're very lifeless almost.
Yeah.
There's like no energy there. It's like to me, it's like truly terrifying if they're
Slow
just get
zombie.
back up.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, and like you don't have to
Yeah.
explain it with like
Yeah.
visual cues like green magic.
Yeah, it was very unclear of like when are they zombies, when are they not zombies, like what's it's yeah, I agree with all of the stuff and I don't know, like it just it felt like the most Star Wars that ever Star Wars whenever I watched
It did
this,
feel
and
a
that's
little
my
convenient
review
that
of
like
it
the
at the time.
Dathomiri are here as well, and it was
Yes.
like, oh, these are the I was like, really, like can't just do a new whole
Right.
people here.
I know. I think, I'm sure there's edicts and there's just like they want to err on the side of callbacks because it's like for us, we've seen the
That's
death
actually a
of
brilliant
Miri.
phrase.
Like we've seen the death of Miri in a million things. So it's like, okay, the death of Miri
Yeah.
witches are here again. Cool. Not a million, but like 5. And, but
Yeah.
for most other people, it may even be the first or the second. And then, so it's cool for them that it's familiar. I mean, listen, the Death Mary witches are cool.
No, it's
They're
so cool.
AF,
It's just almost like Lady Elsbeth using the like sword of Mother Talzin. It just felt like,
Yeah.
all right, well, like we saw the whole Mother Talzin arc. We saw all the Dathomir stuff with that, and we didn't know about this sword, and we didn't know about this gate to Peridia and all this sort of stuff that's just like dropped later, which is like you'd think Mother Talzin would have known about that in Clone Wars or like some of the other
And
some of the
maybe
other
she
things.
did. And when, if we see them on Dathomir, because we know that's where they all are now, and that it's given more exposition and we like it means something that the Dathomirian witches were there and are connected.
I wish
to it,
like
then it'll mean more to
astrogation
me.
was like built into their culture earlier in the things I've read and watched and seen. You
Why
know what I mean?
not
It's like astrogation is just not there until this show, and it's like really, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like that's cool that the witches started here, and it's like the magic started here or whatever.
Why couldn't it just have been the
statues are
cult of
ancient.
the Central Isopter and like they just like they're it turns out they're master like astroticians or whatever you say, like astrologists and can do all these things because they have to find out where all the like stars are exploding in the galaxy. Like that would be I mean, again, no one would care about the cult of the Central Isopter except they're awesome to look at and like their whole mode, but I don't know, that would
I do wonder about the development of Lady Elsbeth as a character. Like, was she Dathomiri to start? I always thought she was like a different part of a different, culture somewhere else. When I first met her in The Mandalorian,
Right.
I didn't really take because then they do a lot of work to like mark her and make her a witch more visibly in this.
and
they
wrote
it's just
her
like- it was
3
like, okay,
episodes
this is
in
really,
Tale
like,
for the Empire too.
moving in a certain familiar.
Yeah, they're retconning for sure. I feel
I
like
almost
yeah,
like
they're-
I almost wonder if we could have dealt with more unknowns. Like we don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
We don't know who she is really. It's like she's more mysterious. I don't know. It just fell into a familiar groove, and
Right.
the Night Troopers weren't like the greatest payoff. So like I'm just trying to like see where you're coming from because I have it again.
Yeah.
I'm someone talking who has a 3.
We're
I'm just like
we're
Yeah.
picking nits here, and we should get to the positive at some point. But yes, absolutely.
no,
like,
I'm like yeah.
now
so I
that
have
you
a 3, and I
mention
think
it,
it's-
and we're always
I'm just
talking-
happy it's a Force sensitive
Yes.
Mando.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, what
Yeah.
a perfect like opportunity to create a new race of necromancer, like
Yes.
star hoppers that use like whales or whatever as transportation, or like some amazing new species culture, the whole thing that are out there
Yep.
and doing things, and so everything's unexpected and we don't know what they're going to do next, and it's like there can be 2 necromancer cultures, there should be many in a galaxy of 3 million species.
yeah.
Yeah, and the creation of these like kind of Norn Dathomiri witches who like are manipulating like the threads of fate or can see like prophetic visions and sort of
Yeah.
I imagine told Thrawn a lot of things, and I also think Thrawn knows way more than we even think he knows as the audience because he's been with those Norns for like a really long time, and when they talk about Sabine, they're like, she's a loose thread. And he's like, tell me about this loose thread or whatever. And it's just like, it's something they didn't see in the vision. Sabine is actually going to maybe have to take the kill shot on Thrawn, even though Hera is basically the main, like Thrawn Hera, from what Filoni's said on Rebels Recon, is like, that's the real protagonist antagonist of what I think is the Rebels verse essentially.
Yeah.
And like maybe that's the final battle, but like Sabine it's definitely like Sabine is this unknown, which is very cool. Like
Totally unknown.
in the prophetic visions or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I mean, and again, if they answer it in the right way in season 2 or 3 or whatever, they can do it in a really interesting way that'll be like super engaging. I mean, just thinking about like hearing you talk about this, imagine Thrawn, the like most brilliant naval tactician, with a bunch of like witches that can see the future. Like, aren't they like Thrawn's super weapon? Like, I mean, with that sort of edge in battle, Thrawn, there's no one that can stand in his way. Like, if we're really thinking about it.
What if Thrawn already knows he's ill-fated and he's going back to the galaxy to start the First Order for real or something? I don't want him to start the First Order. That's not his motivations in my mind as a longtime reader of Thrawn books. But I almost do wonder if his fate is now really important, or he's going to try to adjust his own fate, which would be so cool.
The thing is like Thrawn doesn't take L's. Like, he doesn't take L's.
That's what's be cool about it, is if it's like some sort of mystical, fate, and he's gonna somehow outmaneuver it. That's that's all I want to see.
Right.
That's all I want to see, really, is like Thrawn v Thrawn almost.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to see.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Let me make a point. I think season 2 is, how can I say this? My guess would be season 2 is going to not give us the satisfying things that we want, because I'm a pessimist at heart.
Yeah. I think it'll be a middle sort of trilogy sort of season.
How many monsters on Peridia before you're like, this is too many monsters? We need some more.
So
3.
I want to make that clear. I assume
Ben doesn't count.
3.
Like, 3 monsters.
You get 3 monsters, and then I need some lore. Yeah. That's the like Bad Batch pace.
Yeah. I'm assuming that this series is going to not be a great series in total. And yet still season number 1 is number 2 on my list. And the reason for that has nothing to do with how I almost don't care.
Yeah.
How they wrap this all up. It gave me the most master and apprentice moments I've had in a show, live action, with Jedi in forever, and just watching like Sabine and Ahsoka like on the ship like just talking to each other. Like, that's all I want, is just that. I loved the fact that he was just like, you know what? No, we're gonna slow the show down. I love that we start with her in a temple, like solving something for 10 minutes. Like, I love the pacing of the show.
Can I tell you that I'm guessing that's going to come back in a big way?
I'm sure it will,
temple,
but like
angle, because like, how are they going to get back to the known galaxy?
Yeah.
What did they do in Rebels a bunch? They go into temples and unlock the world between worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
I guarantee you the way they get back, because Purgles only go.
I guarantee you it won't be sasatisfying.
They say that.
Yeah.
They're 100%. That's how they're getting back.
Probably, I would assume. I love the building of the bad guy grouping. I love that we have a gang of bad guys, right? Like, it's not just like one main bad. Like, just let's not forget Marok, right? Like, we just introduce a dark side lightsaber wielding ex-Inquisitorius who is just there to fight and die, right? Like, I love that. I was like, who is Marok? And I'm like, I love that, like, the internet was in love with him for how many weeks? And it's just like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He's dead. Like, I love that. I love the fact that we're like,
what's his name? Marok.
Marok.
Yeah.
Yep.
He already has like his little fan contingent of cosplayers who are just
totally
standing in the corner.
He looks sweet. And I love the fact that like it was building to Thrawn, and like I love that they took the season as slow as they did, and it was not this giant, grand, satisfying ending, right? Like, it was just like, yep, like, that's it. Like, you got Thrawn, and Thrawn's back, and the Ezra reveal, I loved what they did with Ezra. I thought this idea of, like, he's just been, like, on this planet for however long, like, just communing with these guys. Like, I just love it.
Ben, dish on Ezra. What's going on?
I love Ezra. I love Ahsoka Ezra so much, man. Like, I mean, I like, like he really made a mature turn, and he's got echoes of his master in him and everything he does, and like he really matured a lot in like the last half of the last season. And he went through, I mean, he went through a dark place, which was really fun to go, like him flirting with the dark side and Darth Maul and just like all these other tendencies. And he really like, he used the dark side for a minute in that series, which was fun. But so he went through all that, but like really matured. And he echoed almost exactly Kanan's finale, we'll just say. And yeah, so like then he has time to just meditate for 10 years. And I love that he like it really proves that he's a Jedi because he's
a Jedi. He's a master.
He's a full Jedi master. I mean, he's more like Obi-Wan or Yoda really than he's more mature than like oh gosh, I don't want to say it, but like Luke Skywalker because he was just like, sent out of the galaxy for the rebellion. He missed all, all of the, the rebellion wars, and he was just out there. But like, he really arrived at a place that's comparable to Luke.
After Return of the Jedi is the most fascinating character.
Honestly, God, 100%.
He's like, I'm
100%.
him. I'm him. Like a year after, even in Return of the Jedi, he's like, I am a complete Jedi master. And he is.
I mean, like, theoretically, Luke could have never picked up a lightsaber after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I agree. So here's the thing is what I love about what you're saying was kind of unlocked for me is like every other time we've met a Jedi in exile in the movies, they're self-imposed exiles. Right? This is the first time we met a Jedi who was just stranded, right? He's like, so I'm not doing this to punish myself or to wear like a hair shirt. Like I'm just doing this, like I'm stuck here. So I might as well just like meditate on the Force and become a better person. Because eventually I'll get out of this. Yeah. Eventually Sabine and others are going to find me. And then I will be ready to be the person I need to be when they need me. And
he's
he
in
is.
a really good
they meet
place,
him and he's just like,
when they find him.
I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm ready to go. Like, and that ending, which like meant nothing to Carly because she didn't watch Rebels, but the very ending of that thing where he like, I was a little annoyed. Like, why was he still wearing the stormtrooper helmet when he came off the ship? That was dumb.
I have reasons because like he loves helmets and he loves wearing like.
Yes, okay. I love helmets enough to be a dumbass to get myself shot by a bunch of rebellion people.
That's very his MO.
That's very true. Actually,
he loves a good bit.
But like anyway, all that aside. That was such an emotional moment, right? Of like of Hera being reunited with like her adopted son in a lot of ways, and just like and his delivery, the actor, I can't think of his name, is escaping me, but his like just nonverbal delivery of that scene was awesome.
Yeah,
it was so
I
good.
Can't wait to see more of him in that show.
I have some. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The thing with Ezra Bridger is Palpatine knows about Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
Like
he knows what's up.
Interacted essentially.
Yes.
Palpatine said his name before.
Yes.
Visited him.
That's true.
Not in person, but was that a force projection or was that like a technical projection of
wasn't it it was in the world between worlds, right?
No,
like,
it was on the ship.
He sees
it was
Ezra's in the world between worlds, and Palpatine's using some sort of like Palantir or something.
All right, so he saw him. He saw him then, but in season 4, real late in season 4, Palpatine.
Oh, you're right. There was that very
deal.
like
It's like, I have a way to reunite you with your parents. All you have to do is like walk through this wall.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Yeah, they're dead now," and left. And like, and it was cool because Palpatine made himself look like unharmed Palpatine, like his like natural human state.
Pre-Mace
Windu.
Yeah.
Pre-maced. Love
it.
Yeah. So anyways, yes,
I do hope
he's on his radar.
Like the return of Sauron, but it's Palpatine, and like the perfect character to witness that is like Ezra or something. I don't know. That could be cool. Like the necromancer stage of Sauron, like that.
Yeah, you could do another like they did it in the comics of just like Palpatine could have potentially returned before he returned, right? Like there could be a pre-return return
That'd be wild.
Of Palps.
Wild.
And something has to. There's got to be peril in the world between worlds, and
Yeah.
That was a lot of blue fire.
Before
we saw when he died.
Before we move on here, I'm sorry, I did just write a text, but I just wanted to. My cousin, he's technically my first cousin once removed. He's my cousin's son.
Got it.
And he's one of my buddies, and he texted me a Star Wars question just like randomly right now. He was just like, I'm watching like season 2 of Mandalorian right now. He's like, when does this happen in the timeline?
All right.
Oh no.
That was like,
That's
I'm
part
like,
of the
I just
issue
thought
with-
it was serendipitous.
7
that
years
this
after Return of the
happened.
Jedi. What do you say?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I said
I think it's 5, isn't it?
5. What did I tell him? I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
that's
like
my mind. It's 5.
it's 9 ABY and
yeah, Battle of Yavin. So you
and
got
Battle
the 2.
Yavin was Battle Yavin was 3. Oh God, no. I'm sorry. Return of the Jedi.
I mean, roughly 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
I think it's
people will
5. I
understand.
think it's usually the
Just
go-to.
tell them that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe it's 5 years after. No, because like
No.
that's
It's
5 ABY, so it's 4 years technically after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
4 standard cycles.
This is the problem with
Yeah,
Star Wars.
sorry,
It's
I
the
don't have this
timeline.
memorized.
Yeah, this is us.
Because like
this is not
the
you.
Battle of Jakku was like 6 years. I think that's right. I think Return of the Jedi is 5, and then Battle of Jakku is 6.
Like a year
and
later,
then Mando is 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, he'll only know Return. So
Yeah. That's the right way to do it. Because if you tell people like
Yeah.
it's 9 years after the end of the first movie, that's not helpful. Like that's
right,
not-
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. All right.
Anyways, I just wanted to. I told Quinn I'd give him a shout. He's like, give me a shout out on your pod.
Yeah, I do
Love
feel
that
like I am the one who's also just like I got a random text from a friend whose son was like, I can't remember what he asked, but he's like, is this person or this person more powerful in
Yeah.
Star Ward? I'll get those texts all the time. Like, well, and it's never an easy answer. It's just like, well, if you consider like, and then it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm so here for those questions.
Yeah,
though.
same.
And I get them all the time. And I
So-
love it.
let's get we're halfway through.
What are we
We're on
Really?
7. Yeah, we want to talk about 4 of these 8 episode
Okay.
shows. What do you got for 7, Grant? We're gonna talk about something, I think. What do you got, Grant? Number 7.
Me?
Yeah, number 7.
Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, we're not
Oh,
there
wow,
yet.
okay.
So we are there because my number 7 is also Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, we
You're my lister. We're pretty simpatico here, apart from Clone Wars, Grant. All right, so Book of Boba Fett's pretty close. Ben, you're number 6.
6. Yeah.
My 7, Grant 7. So 7, 7, 6. What do we want to say about Book of Boba Fett that we haven't already said? Sorry.
I mean, I
On the
have
pod,
it
you-
above Ahsoka because it's finished and it's a great run. Honestly, like if you speed run and like watch the thing back to back, it does some fun stuff. It's just it's got a lot of great moments in it. I mean, it's got 2 of the best Mandalorian episodes.
It sure does. Yep.
And a lot of Luke Skywalker, and honestly, like the episodes with Boba Fett with the Tusken Raiders are really cool, and the with the train mission was really cool. Like there's a lot of really great episodes. You got Boba Fett on a Rancor. There's actually I just really like it.
Yeah.
It's a really fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got
I will give you that.
You got
Yeah.
Chrysanthemum,
Yeah.
probably the coolest
shit,
pull into live action.
I
yet.
love it. I'm so happy. Yeah, I forgot that happened. I should bump it up a couple numbers just for that.
Like the most
no, but
esoteric pull like you could do is Chrysanthemum.
It
Black
is so
Chrysanthemum.
random.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when it happened. You get huts on twin huts on a sled,
Oh,
right? On
yeah.
fiber sleds.
Yeah.
Like
On a
Ben, I
Palantir.
think you're right. I mean, there's some on the Palantir. There you go. There's something to be said for the fact that this is of all the shows so far, other than Obi-Wan, which we'll talk about, it is like a one and done season. Like they could definitely do more, but it does tell a complete story in a single season. So it's got that going for it with like you said, 2 episodes that have nothing to do with the entire actually arc of the
and honestly,
show.
I really include those things into the Mandalorian. I mean, like I said, episode 5, that's the Bryce Dallas Howard episode. It's
just amazingly
my
shot.
favorite Mandalorian episode of all time. Like
Same.
he's
Yeah, it's
like
up there.
talking about nothing but like hardcore Mando lore for a while. There's like a fight to a death. The like set is the coolest set I've ever seen. The music is some of the best music oh wait, no, that's actually Goranson. Is that like not elevator music, but the club music that the Mando hears is like a super fan, like one of the best. And then you spend 25 minutes building and rebuilding an N1 starfighter.
It's on the wheel. that space station
Yes.
type place.
Yes, exactly. The opening, I will always point everyone to the opening false oneer that Howard does, which is really good. Like it looks like it's a one long continuous shot of him going going to the elevator, up the elevator, through the club. It's really masterfully done. Like it's the thing that like I like Ron Howard. Ron Howard is a good workman director, but I'm like I kind of wish his daughter directed Solo.
Just her episodes have just gotten better and better and better. Now,
she's a fine actor and she does well when she's in movies, but I'm also like, no, she's too talented of a director. Put her behind the camera.
That's a tribute to Kathleen Kennedy, man, because she had that thought, but she had that thought, 5 years ago and was like, you know what, we should just do Bryce Dallas Howard doing the thing, and then like, bang, there she is in Mandalorian. There she's doing all these other episodes, and her and Rick Famuyiwa, it's like, give them a show,
give them everything, anything.
Chow got her show.
That
was awesome. Give Famuyiwa and Bryce Dallas Howard a show.
But then isn't that next episode with Luke and Grogu? Isn't that in Book of Boba?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Okay. That's with all that Luke stuff too.
Book of Boba Fett is a great show, but there are two.
Is it a show though?
Episodes.
That's the thing.
They're like almost entirely Mandalorian episodes. Yeah.
That's what kind of knocks it down on my list a little bit, of just like it just feels like a side quest to the Mandalorian. It feels like this weird afterthought of just like, we introduced this guy, we're gonna tell. It's like a mini series, which I'm also like, I would kind of love that. It's like, why didn't you just, instead of like doing 8 episodes, a quarter of your season, if you do the math, a quarter of your season is actually from the show you're spinning off from.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have faith in your show. Have faith in your show, or just do a mini series. Just do a 4-episode mini series. Like, just do it. It just felt neither fish nor foul at times for me. But again,
I know,
fun.
and ironically,
and they're amazing episodes.
Yeah, dude, the Mandalorian season 2 introduction to Boba Fett was the best Boba Fett episode.
Awesome. It's the best Boba Fett. Yeah,
which is like,
so that's
why did we strike out on this? Yeah,
I put it a little lower on the list, just given that there's sort of a part of me that wishes Boba Fett was like a revenge-o-matic sort of character. And like, and almost his motivations after the Sarlacc pit, after, sure, you could even keep all the Tusken Raider stuff, you can keep the back to tank stuff, you can keep all of that, because obviously you'd need that after a Sarlacc pit, right? Like you'd need some support, and then you'd need a back to tank eventually. You can keep all that. It's just, eventually, wouldn't you want him just to say, first there's something I need to take care of, and it's Han Solo or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, don't you just are you waiting for that moment or something? Like, it's weird. Like, it's just so
I
weird.
almost like
I don't get it.
I feel like you could have told the season of him exactly. That was my thought, is especially of Robert Rodriguez telling your story of just like this. It should be this gunslinger, like just going down, hunting down everyone who wronged him, and then like the last scene of the last episode is him taking the ship and shooting, and Slave One or whatever you want to call it, shooting after the Millennium Falcon, and then just cut to black.
Yeah,
you don't even have to
like, right, like just like, and don't even tell us that story. Like, just like to have the guts to just almost end on like, oh, by the way, he had another showdown with Han Solo. We didn't tell you about it. We're not going to tell you about it.
You're telling me all the Maya files aren't ready to transport?
Guys, I have a feeling we may get part of that in Mandalorian Grogu. I still think we are going to get a ton of de-aged
legacy action happening.
Legacy actors in that movie. I think it's a backdoor Luke, Leia, Han. I think the fact that people have been complaining.
How do you not Boba Han?
7. Though?
That's what I just don't get.
I think you're going to get that as well. I think
yeah.
No, I honestly do, because you have Tamora Morrison, you have that. It is a my brain just completely stopped functioning, but it's a Dave Filoni joint, right? So he's gonna want to bring those characters in.
I mean, there's a million directions to go. It was Favreau made the script, right? So they were, Robert Rodriguez didn't have any say in it. It was just like he had to direct it. That was like the thing. There's a lot of fun things.
So like, shout out to the blocking, like the action blocking.
Yes, it was great.
Mando, Boba fighting together. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I
loved what that's the thing. That's the thing, is I want to now talk about, again, because it's number 7, but it's number 7 on a list of things I would happily watch. Like I would happily at the end of this podcast go and watch
Yeah.
the Book of Boba Fett.
I
And
might
there's so
actually
much
do
to
that
take
actually
away.
because I haven't seen it.
I know.
The first three
I mean,
episodes are like boom, they're just gone. You just vaporize.
They're
them.
they're just there. It's
First
I
four
do
episodes,
love
really, they
the I do love that we get more Tusken Raider lore. Like I love that
Yeah.
we spend time there. I almost love how much time we spent on
Tatooine.
Tatooine. I wish we just hadn't spent so much already in The Mandalorian, which made it feel a little less special. But I do love that. There's part of me that does love the idea that they decided to go this direction of like, yeah, no, he's just like they inverted this idea of he's just a sheriff in a small town as he's no just the crime lord of a small town, right?
Yeah.
Like I kind of like that. I mean, you made me actually enjoy Cad Bane. Like points for that, right? Like I as a character who is like one of my least favorite characters to be like actually made him kind of terrifying.
Yeah, they did a good job with Cad.
And
He looks awesome too. Like just the
and they kill
And
him
they kill
off,
him off,
so
which
there's
is
that.
that. Yeah.
So there's got that point. Like,
animatronics
so,
under his mouth. Just
yeah.
So cool.
it's practical at times, or most of the time. I think he's practical.
Yeah. I was not folded by arms watching this when it was airing. You know, I wasn't sitting there week to week going, "Oh, grumble, grumble, grumble." Right.
But if it was like there
yeah.
was rumors of his dad's genetic thing being used for like a different group of cloners on another planet, and he needs to fight through Nal Hutta and all these crime syndicates. Like that's his only motivation. It's not to redeem his life. It's just like he gets his like act back together, but gets his armor back, and then is just like, immediately catches wind of this and is like off. And he's just Boba Fett being Boba Fett. And it's like there's no like hero redemption arc. Like maybe he learned something and makes some friends along the way. But it's like
he's almost the ultimate character to have getting the ship, getting the fire spray, and then
just head out.
flick on the hollow emitter and see like a bounty for a ton of money, and it's like someone who's already quit.
And they're like, "Whoa, Boba's back!"
It's like, oh, I have to do this then, or whatever.
Can you imagine like
he's like that character?
People be like, "Whoa, Boba's back!" Like bang, and it's like him ranking back up in the ranks of like, I don't know. The quote from Favreau was just like, hey, we want to do like a redemption arc. Like if we're going to do a show about someone, we need to do this hero story. Like it's always about the hero's
everyone needs
journey.
a hero story.
And I'm like, yeah, but what if we didn't though?
Do you? Part of me wonders if they made that show now, which is only like what 3 years later, but like with Andor doing what Andor's doing, and the Acolyte, what we're assuming the Acolyte will be doing, if they don't just give Boba Fett a Boba Fett story and not worry about it, because they're like, we have room for all these different types of stories in the Star Wars universe, and your redemption heroes arc is the Mandalorian. That is your main run, right down the center. Your hero's journey, right? Like we're getting that fulfilled. Like here's the thing about Boba Fett is I watch that show, and the more I think about it, it's like Book of Boba Fett, a good Star Wars show, a bad Boba Fett story.
What if
that's kind of what I think
Book
about
of Boba
that.
Fett?
Yes.
Maybe not bad.
Go
Maybe that's
Grant.
really
Go
harsh,
Grant.
but you know
what do you
Season
got?
2 pitch, Book of Boba Fett. It's like The Hobbit. You're getting old Boba Fett sort of writing there and back again, and it's like Boba Fett pre A New Hope, and it's like all that stuff we're talking about.
I mean, and there's a lot of
it's
room
like-
for that. Like
It's just like a few years
There's
or like
tons.
1 year before A New Hope.
Yeah, which is there's lots of room. No, that's
so
a good
much
point. Like
to do right there.
oh, I see. Like
I think
him
that's a
like
good-
reflecting back, and it's a flashback series. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's even room like now. So like, okay, Favreau essentially got him out of the Sarlacc pit and got him stable again.
Yep.
Like it's a small step really for Boba Fett, but he's alive, told this beautiful story of like him coming back and having his like realization, had his like, near death experience, apotheosis, whatever. So, all right, he's had his hero
Fight the
story.
sand beast.
Right.
Yep.
He's had the hero story. And now it's time where it's like maybe that's when he finds out about his dad's, genetic code being used for like illegal cloning or something, or, any other thing that sucks him back into having to get on the bounty hunter scene to like accomplish some like mission. Then it's really fun, man. Then it's super fun. You like, and I mean, it's like, it makes sense that you take a season it was a short season to get where it is. And then like now he has to come back, and it's like he's seeing old people and he's having to revert back to his old ways. And, I think that would be a lot of fun, man.
I thought he would have
the
like
right
20
hands.
hideouts on different planetoids all over the galaxy.
Oh, yes.
And
He
then,
should.
like, he could use like
He's
retinal
like
scanners,
the
to plug,
premier
Clone
bounty
War
hunter
vehicles
that-
and get an old Clone War Star Destroyers because he's a clone essentially.
Yeah.
Like he does so much.
No, it's true.
His own
He should be able to do
stashes,
everything.
Django's old stashes. Like, I mean, they're probably family stashes. I
All this,
love
they have
that.
stashes. Bounty hunters have stashes.
Stashes everywhere.
Caches, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say is, does anything we know about Boba Fett in the movies and then in the book of Boba Fett suggest that he would be good at being a daimyo
No,
or
nothing.
whatever? No. So can we just have a riches to rag story for season 2? Like almost feel like an Ocean's 12 of he just realizes
He's
he just realizes
riches
like
to
got
rag.
I'm
nothing.
not good at this.
Yeah.
I'm not good at this. Like this is not what I thought I wanted. This I don't
He just
want
gets
this. I need
kicked
the
out by the
simplicity.
Beaumont monks.
Honestly,
Beaumont
and he's
monks.
just like, you know what? I just want the simplicity of hunting a bounty. I know I'm good at that, and just goes back into like, man, I just got to go back to the basics. Like, I kind of want that of him just
Yeah.
being like, no, I actually suck at this. I hate this. This sucks. Because haven't we all had those jobs where we think we want something and we go a little higher than we actually like, and we get what that job is, and we're just like, you know what? Maybe I'm speaking from personal experience, like of being the director of a master's program right now.
No one's listening.
It's fine. I'm good at it, but boy, do I not like it. And I'm like, you know what? I wish I was just teaching again.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I have respect for people who like sometimes reach a bit beyond their grasp.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And to be
Yeah.
fair, there's some revenge in the show. There's the destroying of the Sarlacc pit. It's pretty major.
Yeah. It's pretty
It's
good.
pretty metal.
Yep, the drop in
That's
the,
a great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though, yeah. From a certain point of view, kind of ruined that scene for me. But so
Yeah,
Don't
it's very
know
sad.
that.
don't read that
from a
chapter.
certain-
Feels like a genocide.
Yeah.
So
That was 7, and
Yeah,
now
like
we're
real
here at
bad.
8, right?
It's terrible.
yeah, we're at 8. We got some stuff to talk about. So Ben, what's your number
Bad
8?
Batch. Is that the third Bad
All
Batch?
right,
Wow.
we
We're all
can
on
talk
Bad
Bad
Batch
Batch now. So it was number 5 for both Grant and I, and it's your number 8.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I picked it
Who
low.
wants to take it?
I mean, I feel like I'm the outlier again, so I'm going to take the first watch here. But yeah, I mean, I love this show. I gush about it. I have no notes on this show. Like I love it. It's a really, and it just got stronger every season. It's very episodic, and it's like sort of, it's kind of a
Yeah.
pithy show. That's the thing. Like I like some meat on the bone, and I like some lore. And yes, they had the big lore note of like, this is really more about the changeover from clones to stormtroopers, which is very important. But other than that, it's a very small show, and you follow these people, and the stories are amazing. The
Yeah.
characters are amazing. It's the best animation I've ever seen. The score is amazing. Like it's great. It's great. It does the thing, but it's just like, it's a little light. It's just kind of a light show to me, and it's tougher for me to
Yeah.
rewatch because it's just like, oh, and then they literally fight a giant monster every episode.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like everything you're saying, I 100% agree with, and that's why it's my number 5, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. It's like it's a taste
Yeah.
thing, right? And I'm just like, because the other thing you said is like I also don't know if I will necessarily rewatch the Bad Batch
I've
anytime
tried.
soon.
And sometimes it's got its ups, and then it's some
Yeah.
sort of, I'm like, oh, I've memorized this. I know what's happening. It's
Yep. But I will say that like it really hits the found family thing in Star
Yeah.
Wars that I love, that I really, really love, and Omega story and the softening of the Bad Batchers is kind of something I love, and the fact that in season 1 I was sitting there on air going, nope, Crosshair done, hate him, he's never redeemed. Screw him, throw him in the trash compactor, hate him, done. And by the end of like just 2 seasons later, to be like best redemption arc shown in Star Wars is like and to do that over 3 seasons, I think that's part of what I'm amazed by. Is just like I think that magic trick of just watching the Bad Batch through Crosshair is just amazing to me. And so I think that's part of it. Is just like Rebels. I love. This feels a little more like the Andor version of the animated series in some ways, even though it's still animated. And we'll get to, it is a little more episodic than Rebels for sure. I bet you I could cut Bad Batch down by about half. I bet you could trim about half the episodes out for the stuff, but I sometimes I needed those kind of standalone episodes. I don't know. It just clicked for me of all the animated. Now the other thing I will note is I am also one of the people that's also most affected by recency bias. So
Yeah,
it's
me
hard
too.
for me not to think of this as like it's the most current animated series, so it's the best animated series. But I mean, the animation's amazing, the look of it's amazing. It feels like I don't know if this is I mean I'm thinking it's a good thing. I could imagine watching the Clone Wars and Rebels with my daughter relatively soon. I cannot imagine watching Bad Batch with her until she's like 12.
At least,
Like,
yeah.
it feels the
Yeah.
most adult
Yeah.
in some ways,
Strong
right? In a good
premieres
way.
and strong
Yeah.
finales in Bad Batch, I've
Yeah.
noticed.
Oh,
It
yeah.
also has some of
Yeah.
the best single episodes of animation on all the three major, shows. Because I guess four Resistance, right?
Yeah.
But the scene with the crosshair on that Arctic world and that old clone who are just mistreated and like
Mm-hmm.
treated as expendable. I was just like, this is one of the best, like this is the darkest, one of the best, most poetic episodes of like Star Wars animation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The first episode of the first season, the Kanan
Yeah.
Deep of Lava
Yeah.
stuff, was like the best Clone Wars I've ever seen. Like a Rebel, it's just
Order
essentially
66,
Kanan,
yeah.
it's Rebels. It's just
Yeah.
all the good stuff. And then it's sort of, it feels like a Jedi episode for the first like 10 minutes, and then it's like, oh, it's all about the Bad Batch. Love that episode. Yeah, I do think it's a little overloaded with like creature features and the tightening of the relationships of the Bad
For
Batch,
sure.
and sort of just a lot of that a lot of the time. But when it does do the Rampart, Tarkin stuff, and you see the rise of the Empire, and you see Phase One stormtroopers, and you see how they're conscripting people, and you see how the burgeoning sort of Imperial Order, it's interesting. Like, it's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
very
Mount Tantus thrown
dark,
in there.
and it's crazy that people sign
Yep.
up for it, and like it's crazy.
The Rampart stuff I love. I love that you don't give him a redemption, right? Like you're not just like, oh no, he's actually a good guy caught in a system. No, he's a bad guy who has tried to use the system to his advantage and finally, figured out a way to survive in the end, like a rat.
The persecuting of the Kaminoans is so dark
Oof.
too.
Yes.
Sort of like
Yeah.
take
Yeah,
over.
you
It's
get
the
a
genocide of the
people.
Kaminoans too. Like that's
Yeah, that's
you get
essentially
you get
what
a
you're seeing.
satisfying in square quotes finale to their story, meaning that you get like an actual like capper,
Yeah.
right? Of like we now know clearly what happened with them, and like again that flash forward ending, which Filoni, boy, does he love that crutch sometimes. Like we get it in every single series, he will do that flash forward, but third time's a charm. Where like when he did it in the last two, like he did it in Clone Wars season 7, which we could talk about,
Did he?
which we'll
He
talk
did
about
a
eventually.
flash
He
forward
did it.
in season 7.
Mhm.
Vader,
We have
yeah.
Vader finding the lightsaber.
Oh yeah, you're right.
There's that haunting music.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
they're
forgot
haunting
about that. It's a
music.
mini flash forward, but yeah, right.
It's very little, and then we get the same thing. We get another flash forward in Rebels, both good, but like the flash forward in this, I think, was a necessary capper of just like mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Like it was like a literal like just like nope, you get to rest, and like almost again, being weeks out, talking about this again. I'm almost starting to cry again just
Right.
talking about the
Right,
flash forward
yeah.
of season of that. Like that is
No,
amazing.
It's a
Yeah.
6th season. It's
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
All right, Grant, what's your number 8?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
All right, let's talk Obi-Wan. All right, so Obi-Wan all over the map again for us. Ben's number 3, my number 4, Grant's number 8.
All right, Grant, you're the outlier. So why don't you
Yeah,
go
I
first?
hate to put this so low, but I just at times it just feels slightly superfluous. Like I just don't
I don't
get
disagree with that.
the using of Luke and the Lars Homestead and Owen and Beru and Vader and just all the and I love the Leia, and like I almost think Leia and Obi-Wan could have just done their own thing, and like if that's what it is, if that's what the show is, but just sort of bringing in all the characters we know and sort of telling this story that sort of circumvents those fates. I was just like, this is like it's almost like I know how this has to end, and I just want to see the hate. It was worth it for the Hayden Ewan reunion. Like that was awesome. And then Reva is an incredible character. The Inquisitors is great. Like it's all, I love all the Inquisitors. I think they just do a great job. There's cool planets we explore for the first time, like Daiyu. Um, and but I also just feel like the sets felt a little tight at times. The blocking or the chase scenes felt a little contrived. Like some of the stuff that just happened didn't feel like as vast as I wanted it to feel, and I almost didn't think Obi-Wan could be as high profile as he was in the show. Like I almost feel like he had, like a lot of the Jedi in hiding should sort of like if they're going to keep their cover, they really need to keep their cover. Like I don't know. I just felt like it was tiptoeing around a lot of what that concept is and how he can operate in the galaxy before A New Hope, and it felt a little bit like, I don't know, like extra filling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me go ahead, Ben.
You sure? Because I'm on the other end of the spectrum of it, and I like I like the extra filling. I think I'm here for the like Obi-Wan progression and like his like journey that he goes on like psychologically through all these very extreme twists and turns. But he's like, so he goes from just like, this is who I am, and he's downtrodden, he does all those things, and then and he gets all these calls, like he gets all these calls to action, and he like just refuses. And it's almost, like he finally is like, okay, I've got to go help. I mean, I love that it's Leia instead of Luke that draws him out there. But, just him trying, like rediscovering his role in the galaxy, I thought was really fun. Specifically with Haja Estri, Kumail's character. Like, he sees a person with no force ability doing more good as a Jedi than he is. And, like, that alone, I think, was just, like, so powerful. And, the people he meets along the way. And it's just, like, yes, I would have loved to see full power Obi-Wan because I'm such a dork, like, the whole time. But, like, like, that it turned out, like, that sort of progression was amazing. And obviously all the Hayden stuff was fantastic. And, everything with the, with Leia and the rest of, Alderaan options there, the Organas, is just great to see. But, yeah, it was just like, I thought it was actually a really like emotionally jarring, story, especially like he didn't even know, he thought Anakin died. Like literally died, and then like we got the moment where he finds out that Anakin is Darth Vader, and I mean that's a heavy moment. And I mean I think we all said after this was just like before this came out we're like why, and at the end we're like how could we have lived without this story? Because it's like it's really an amazing story. Sort of like how do you get from exile Obi-Wan, who's just like depressed and hates himself and thinks he's its utter failure, to Sir Alec Guinness Obi-Wan that is like the epitome of all things that I love about Jedi,
Yeah, I have like nothing to add. Ben, you said it perfectly, all I feel, but I was like listening to everything great you said, and like I agree with every single thing that you said.
Yeah,
and then I was just like,
love all these shows.
Yeah.
Like,
but
all these shows. There's not. We're not trying to knock anything.
But all of your critique is not a dirty word. Critiquing is an okay thing to do. All your critiques are, in my opinion, absolutely valid. And I was sitting there going, yeah, but it's Obi-Wan. Like it so sounds so pithy and whatever, but I'm like, but it's Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to watch an Obi-Wan show and it not to be like in the top tier of it. And like the thing that you said at the very end, Ben, that I was going to hit on a little bit is just like, I think of the three of us, I might have been the most critical of the show because I remember they announced it and I was like real down on this show. Like I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Do not tell
can't
this.
happen. That can't.
We don't need this. This is like my head canon is this. I was like really hard crossed, and so
like attacked with a lightsaber or something.
I know, and like I know.
I mean, what happened to Luke?
I have to say the end of that season is not my favorite part. Not my favorite part. Not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite, as my daughter likes to say when you ask her if she wants something.
Yeah, I don't get
no,
the
it's not
going
my
to
favorite.
like take out Darth Vader's children or whatever. I was just like,
I could have done without that, but the rest of it I really love. I love this idea of just like, yeah, you said it perfectly, Ben. This idea of just like the Obi-Wan we get at the end of episode 3 and the Obi-Wan we get at the episode 4 are two different people, and something happened.
Yeah, and
maybe it's exile, maybe it's an
story,
18-year-old exile
for sure.
But something had to happen.
And so it
during
told a bit
that
of it.
exile,
Yeah, it had to happen. And there's part of me that loves that he is calling out to Qui-Gon the entire series, and they gave us what we needed. We did not need a long, protracted thing of watching Ghost Qui-Gon talk to Obi-Wan. I would have loved it, but just a little of just like, yeah, I've been here the whole time type of thing of just like, finally. It's kind of nice. It is, it was a thing where I'm like, okay, this will be one season. It'll tell a complete story and I'll be fine with it. And by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, but there's room for season 2.
I know.
Like, the fact that by the end of season 1, I was just
what
like
if they
trying to worm a season 2 out of it. It's kind of amazing.
I'd love one more scene
Right.
with Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson. Like, I'd love just because
So Ben,
because it wouldn't really be master apprentice. It'd be like master, and they would just like have a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
What if he's like meditating on a dune and there's like a light in the distance and glimmers, and then like Qui-Gon appears and he's trying to bring him back to the fold and make him hopeful again or something, because he's obviously established this sort of immortality situation, and trying to make him hopeful again. You tie all the noise and resonance, sound of Qui-Gon's voice throughout the entire show to like the path, or or whatever, like all the Jabim and like all that stuff. Like, you tie it all together. Like, there's still people out here doing good. You don't have to be embittered about all sentient life. Like, there's a way the show could have really folded in a lot of these cool themes. And
but
to me, it just feels like there's a lot of like adventure of the day stuff that's happening, or like serial sci-fi stuff happening. And I'm just like, I think Obi-Wan's story needs a little bit more of like Qui-Gon's involved. Like, it's a reawakening. It's like a spiritual journey in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know.
I guess I just think about Qui-Gon is I feel like Qui-Gon would be like, no, Obi-Wan's got to figure it out for himself. Like, I can't talk him,
can't coach him into how he has.
I can't coach him into being not depressed. Like, he's got to figure it out for himself.
I think you just want these
and
people
I'll
to do
be here when he's ready.
though. Like, so Anakin, that didn't go well. Like,
yeah. Whoopsie daisy. Right. I mean,
but that's the thing. I think Obi-Wan saw him when he was ready to see him, knowing that his old master wasn't going to judge him or feel bad or anything. It was just like this, like, we are now masters.
Grant, I just
the other
wanted
thing
to
is
speak
just
to what
talk about
Grant said real quick, but I just wanted to say, like, I think all that stuff could be a season 2, and like, they're like, he had to go through these certain trials, and I mean, yes,
there's a season 2 announced of Obi-Wan?
No. I'm like saying,
we're just saying there should be.
Everything you're saying, I think that's your season 2, and I'd love, usually the teaching thing is like Qui-Gon,
but he's like not hopeful, like, you know what I mean, like, and then it's being hopeful towards the end, because he's like, oh, people are good, actually. Not everyone just turns into a dark lord and betrays me and tries to kill me. Like, people are good,
right? But I mean, I think there's still room for that lesson to be taught. I mean, he's acclimated with the Force and he's back in the game, but it's like he still needs to level up to get to Sir Alec Guinness, and I think that leveling up could be really fun to explore. Like, you're getting into sort of the nuance of the Force, but it's like, it's almost like where he just, like, the game slows down even more for him. And, maybe it's about understanding the living force to understand the cosmic force sort of thing. Like, it's usually Qui-Gon teaching him about the living force, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's force lessons. Maybe it's a cosmic.
He's also
force
on
thing.
media blackout too, because not even force blackout. It's also like he's not looking at like
he has no idea
the
what's
Hollow
going
News
on.
and like Darth Vader like tears through like separatists, or whatever. Like, it just.
Yeah, well, that's all the more reason.
He's
to
a Darth
like
Vader guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the more reason for a season 2 to be like an inner journey, because you don't want to be reading the like news headlines or like the scrambled messages about Darth Vader when you just let him live and now he's continuing to slaughter people all over the galaxy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. That would be a very different show.
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say is that the addition of the path to Star Wars lore, I think was
Awesome.
really awesome and beneficial and interesting. And like, I was not expecting Obi-Wan to introduce something extra. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like to introduce something that I'm like, I think we keep talking about it. We've seen it. It's starting to pull into the Jedi Survivor series. Like, we're seeing the path starting to fall to the point where I'm just like, it's kind of wild to me. They still haven't announced a Jedi path. Like,
Yeah,
I thought for
shit.
sure that was going to be the spinoff from the Bad Batch, which it still might be, but like, we need a Batch show.
I think that's going to be the
Path
next
show of some
animated
kind.
thing. Is going to be a Path show.
I do, yeah. Yeah.
But I would love live action O'Shea Jackson Jr. Back.
I know.
You
So
know,
good.
it would be a great
Yep.
live action show, but I don't know what the
I
resources
feel it's
are.
not an Inquisitor show, honestly. Like
Mm.
after Obi-Wan, I was like, they should do like an Inquisitor, and just like the Inquisitor experience.
That's a dark
and
story, man. From
how
you know,
dark and terrible that is. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, from
Yeah.
especially that book Rise of the Red Blade, that really like.
I guess Obi-Wan is
gross.
basically that, though. You do get a lot of Revas, like everything. You get
Yeah.
all the Inquisitor stuff.
Yeah, it kind of is. They do like you get into their sort of hierarchies there and what
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like.
you do
in a
get it all.
temple. But not as much as like Rise of
weird
the Red
watching-
Blade, where it's like they're constantly at each other's
No.
throats, and then
Yeah.
also the Tales of the Empire.
Yeah, Tales of the
It's
Empire.
weird watching episode 3 in the theater going, is Reva over there? Is Reva over there? Where's Reva? Reva's over there. Like just like, yeah, like it's you know, I love that when you little tie in other canon. Like, oh yeah, then Grogu's over there getting rescued by what's his name? Kalen. No, Kalen
Kelleran
Beck.
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 Or
Alderaan
Beck,
Beck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I forgot that
You're
happened in
number
season
8,
3 of The
Adam.
Mandalorian.
So
Yeah, so now it is finally time
Clone
to
Wars?
talk about the Clone Wars. Yeah, so it's number 4 for both of you and number 8 for me. I'm the outlier, so I'll talk for a second. The reason why it's number 8 for me is and it's my controversial opinion, I think I could chop out 2/3 of the episodes of Clone Wars and I'd be fine. That is my opinion.
No.
Yes. I think there is so much fat on that.
the show's about the fat. That show is the fat, man. Like that's what it's. I mean, I ranked it 4 for the quantity alone. Like it's just so much good Star Wars that's just like out
Too
there.
much.
I love
I
that.
I
Too
think
much
it's so
stuff.
scary the thought of droids killing clones.
Yeah.
Like it's terrifying to me. I am like, the whole Clone Wars is just a terrifying concept,
Yeah.
and the Jedi are just stuck in the middle of it. And it's bizarre that the Jedi even use a clone army in the first place. Like
Yes.
it makes no sense at all. Like just doesn't make sense.
If
Yeah,
anyone would
but
use a
I
droid,
have
army,
with all
Jedi in the
this,
midst of
not
war
in the
is
show.
the poetic rhythms George is trying to get at. He's trying to explore that. Like he's trying to explore what is it like with warrior monks besieged at all times, and sort of how do they operate together, and then how that is sort of confounding or just deeply ironic for people who want to preserve life and keep peace, and then all the calamity that happens springs from that. But I agree with you. I think a lot of it could be cut. I think there's a lot of stuff that's just like adventure of the week. But I do like that it feels different, and when you're not stuck in one little arc, it does feel like we're going to wildly new worlds and locations.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's really trying to push the mythos, I think, in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. Like, all this stuff and all that stuff is all from Clone Wars. Like I don't know. It's trying to do a lot.
I know it is. That to me is not a benefit. That's a bug, not a feature. No, sorry.
What,
the
Mortis?
Stuff, the Mortis.
Yeah,
stuff,
we can talk about
I,
that.
I can't. I
yeah.
just don't dig on the Mortis stuff, but it's fine. It's fine. But I will say this: like I love, like the sheer number of different planets we visit, the amount of planet hopping we get is wonderful. Ben walked away, so maybe you'll hear this in a second, but I do need to do a rewatch in not release order, but in continuity order, which I haven't done. So I've heard that will help as well. But again, I just want to make it clear, like I love the Clone Wars, and I would happily watch the Clone Wars right now. I would probably edit it down to about a third of the episodes. I really like so much of it. Some of the negatives or something that dropped it down is, I mean, not to like beat a dead horse, but boy, did it give us Darth Maul
Spider legs?
It is to blame for the Darth Maulification of Star Wars, which I just am not here for. I wish Darth Maul if I could do one thing in Star Wars, and might be literal, if I could do one thing in Star Wars, change one thing in Star Wars, it might be that Darth Maul fell down that shaft and died.
Can we
and that was
please
the end
next
of
week
Darth
do the
Maul.
top 5 things that we would most wish to change in the canon?
Well, I would. I think we're gonna be talking about the Acolyte,
Yeah,
so
we
we
won't
don't
have
have time
time,
for
but
that.
number
But
one for Adam, no
we
Darth Maul.
should.
Can
Darth
I
Maul's
just say
done.
my
I
number
love him.
one
He's
is
cool. He'd
also
be frightening
no
and
Darth Maul?
amazing. So I do love him in Rebels. So it's hard to say. What was that?
Thing you wish you could change the most in canon?
Can you do it?
It's gonna be music related. I
No,
probably
can't be
would have.
music
I probably
related. It
would
has to be,
cut
like,
out that
plot character.
musical scene in Return of the Jedi.
Which scene? That movie
Well, like
scored
the
No. Meow meow meow
Oh,
meow
yeah,
meow
yeah.
meow 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 meow
So-
meow meow. That I would probably
Oh,
X
you're
that.
talking about the
Yeah.
Jabba's Palace.
Yeah, the Jabba's Palace music
Yeah.
scene that was re-edited in. I could live without that.
That's not the hottest take.
the
but
Jedi
I'll take it.
Rocks.
That's fine. That's a good number
Nope,
one.
it is a lukewarm mid.
Ours
take.
Ours are just saber hot takes. Like we're upsetting people who are
Listen,
deep Maul
listen.
fans right now.
I think if
but-
they created a new character, I would have probably enjoyed that, preferred that to bringing Maul back, because it does
Here's-
kind of discredit like Obi-Wan's kill there, and like, listen, Maul was great. Like, let's make a
Yeah.
new character that's great. Let's go.
I will say, here's the thing. I do kind of love Maul in Rebels. I love how they use him. Like I love like Crazy Maul on what's it, Moribund or whatever.
That 110% didn't need to be Darth Maul though.
No,
Like it could have been just like an old Jedi.
It's
or something.
also not
Yeah.
worth I would cut out every single episode of Darth
Right,
Maul
I mean,
in the Clone Wars.
Filoni just
Sorry.
created an entire suite and an ensemble of rebellion
Yeah.
characters, and they're all genius. Like, have some faith in yourself to create your own like antagonist
Yeah.
too. Like, why
Yeah.
not? And like then
Agreed.
carry that person forward. It was a strong cameo to throw
And
in there.
It's weird. Ahsoka's amazing. Her arc is amazing. I love that we get 7 seasons. We actually see her progress and mature and grow up. And I love
Ahsoka's a fantastic character. Yeah.
I love that Anakin had a Padawan. Like the revelation
Yes.
to my wife when she was just like, "Wait, who's Ahsoka?" And I was just like, "It's Anakin's Padawan." And she's like, "Wait, Anakin had a Padawan?" Like there's that moment of just like, what is that like? And just watching her watch the live
Exactly.
action of this is like it's kind of an amazing idea. So there's so much good there. And again, number 8 does not mean it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I need to, and I think you're away at this point, Ben, but I need to do a rewatch in universe chronological order.
Yeah.
I still
that's
have yet to do that.
Again, this is my 10 millionth plea to Disney to please do a playlist of Clone Wars
Yeah.
in chronological order, not release order, because release
Yeah.
order is stupid. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do a battle out of order? Like, I mean, I know, whatever. They had stories they wanted to tell and they backfilled and they did whatever, but it's just like, okay, fine. It's done now. Let's just watch it in chronological order like adults.
The other thing I will say that I think sometimes we overweigh or give more weight to the later seasons of Clone Wars and forget about the first couple of seasons of Clone Wars, which I will say.
So good.
Oh, I was going to say the opposite.
Yeah,
the first 2
there's-
seasons of Clone Wars
so
are a
good.
rough
The Plo
watch.
Koon episode of him just being like, all life matters and saving
Yeah.
clones and stuff is like one of my
That's
favorite
good.
episodes.
They're good. They're good episodes. Just like there are good episodes in
Right.
season 3 of Star Trek,
they get
but
to
it's mostly
be-
garbage.
They get to be fire though. Like by season
they
3,
become
they're
absolute fire.
Yeah,
like-
season 3, 4, like because remember that's when I dropped off, and then when I came back after watching Rebels, I'm like, oh boy, I dropped off at the exact wrong time because man, did Clone Wars get really solid in the middle there.
Yeah, the animation like takes a step forward.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
the storytelling gets wild. I mean, the like Colonel
Yes.
Kurtz
Yeah.
thing with Pongo, what is Poggle? Oh, the guy with the 4 arms, the like evil Jedi.
Yeah, it's the same person as Dexter
Ponkrell?
Jettster, right?
Ponkrell. Thank you.
Ponkrell.
Yeah.
Oof. I'm like Pongo, Ponger, Pong,
I
Pong,
just-
Pingy,
I-
Pong.
Yeah, that's a great.
Only
Yeah,
on
it's
Star Wars
Ponkrell
YouTube
arc.
can you get 2 people yelling Ponkrell at the same time when someone else says it normally.
I love Grievous too. So there's just so much good Grievous.
There's a lot of good
action
Grievous.
that-
Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much good stuff in the Clone Wars.
You
There's
get to
just
see
so much stuff.
Grievous's like hideout and his like
Grievous's lair.
his layer and like all his incarnations of his body modifications that he's done,
Yeah.
and like there's some great lore there's some serious lore in there. I
I think
mean,
he kills a like Mon Calamar Jedi or like Padawan or something. It's terrifying.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. I have been toying with because I used to way back when I was exercising, I used to watch Marvel movies in chronological order.
yeah. There's
Which
a
is a fun way
playlist
to
for
do
that
that.
on Disney right
Yep.
now,
Yeah.
which is
And
to
I've
my
been thinking
chagrin.
about doing that for Star Wars as well because it's much more a thing. And the thing that keeps stopping me in my tracks, dead in my tracks, is Clone Wars.
Is like hours and hours and hours of
Because I get to
Clone Wars.
see, I get to like, yeah, exactly. I get to like episode 2, and then it's like 6 months later, I will get to episode 3. Like,
Yeah,
it's, you know, so
I've started to hunt and peck every once in a while. I'll just dip
Yeah.
into random parts, like I'll remember a thing or something will be related to something that happened in the Clone Wars, and I'm like, I'll just go back and watch that arc. And during the
Yeah.
Mandalorian, I was like, I kind of forgot about what happened with Obi-Wan, and
Right.
so like I went through like Obi-Wan has a couple arcs with the Mandalorians. Obviously, he was in love with Duchess of Satine, and
I think if you look at the dramatic tension too, like in Rebels, it's just renegade rebels trying to survive the monstrous empire, the military-industrial complex of the empire, and with Bad Batch, it's like, oh, we've just gotta we gotta keep Omega away from the cloning operation on Tantus and keep Omega safe and survive together as clones who are hunted by the Empire. But then Clone Wars has, I would argue, the most dramatic tension because there are scenes with like Palpatine where he is like trying to like sort of like subtextually like sort of plotting and doing things behind the scenes and saying things to people that are just so menacing and juicy and sort of chewing up the scenery, and it's just like and he has to make it out of the scene clean, and you're tracking it like Breaking Bad almost, like you're just like, oh, he has to
and then there's a
Jedi here.
And then there's
like,
a 3 episode,
and that's the ultimate, like, I mean, that's the biggest tectonic shift in Star Wars is obviously the generation of the Empire. So that sort of stuff is happening all the time, and it's just
that's happening
part of its everyday adventures.
And then there's a 3-episode arc where Jar Jar and C-3PO hang out. That is my point. It's like it's total that show.
What are you going to say about C-3PO and Jar Jar Binks?
Has total whiplash, right? Tonal whiplash, where you go from a Colonel Kirk's episode to like a random.
There's a Mace Windu Jar Jar Binks buddy cop episode,
which is fine and fun, but it is hard to get to agree. I have a thing.
They go to Rhodia. It's pretty cool.
Yes, they do go to Rhodia. I was thinking about the Rhodia episode. The thing about
more aliens, like so many.
Yeah, so many more aliens. It's just hard for me to get into a groove with that show, right? In a good way, and sometimes like you just never know what you're gonna get. But boy, do you never know what you're gonna get. You're watching the
that's what it's about. I mean, it's about it's a war, like war's hell. It's just like it keeps on going, and it's like every day you're like, what am I seeing?
I love that aspect, and I hate that aspect.
Yeah, and I mean the bulk of it, I think it's a plus, and that like it lends itself to this fun episodic thing, and I can't believe they got away with making so many seasons and so many episodes of this show, because it's like this is that serial that like we. Kind of, I don't know. I think we all want like that could happen. It's just like have a show that just goes, man.
I definitely want to revisit for that reason.
Seasons, like holy cow!
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Right. Remember that? But because I have, a lot of people have been kind of bemoaning this long arc storytelling, which is fine. But then like something like Star Trek: Brave New Worlds came out, which is just like the best Star Trek show since Voyager, like really, like it's because it has a general overarching plot for the season, but it's episodic, and so you'll get like one episode that focuses on this character, another episode that's a comedy, another episode that's this heavy drama. Like it just
that's very
bounces.
Much Star Trek's thing, though.
But they haven't done that in forever, and so to go back to that reminds me of X-Files and things like that. And so like I kind of want to revisit the Clone Wars now that I'm in the mindset of like, you know what, episodic television has a place, right? And so I feel like I'd be much more appreciative of it now in 2024 than I was like last time I did a rewatch, which I think was like 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always find that a lot of my Star Wars questions start with Clone Wars too. It's like where did I hear this planet name before? Where did I see this,
Yeah.
monarchy before? Where did
Yeah.
this happen? It's
Zygerians.
usually Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Like,
it's always
Yeah.
because like Nemoidia. Like they go to
that's
a
why I call it the
million
text.
planets. The text. Yes, I love that. It's the text.
What, Scipio Minor.
Yeah, I mean, and it was designed by George. It was
Yeah.
engineered by George, and Filoni ran with it. It's a big moment, and it does some
All the
amazing-
Dathomiri stuff,
It's-
Mother Talzin, and
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I
the
mean,
genocide.
It's
of
the
Dathomir,
bridge.
Yeah,
It is the bridge between it is the bridge between the old EU and the new EU. It's the
Yeah.
only thing that made it through.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Acolyte for a little bit? I mean,
yeah.
we've got it coming down the pipe. We don't know where it's going to land in all this. Early reviews are super positive on it. I think I have not been dipping into the spoilers. I'm not trying to live my life like that. I apologize if you're here for Acolyte
same.
spoilers.
No, I think
Yeah.
we all haven't seen anything except for the first trailer and
Second
extended scene we saw.
Yeah. The
and
scene in the first two trailers.
watched the
Yeah.
First two trailers, right? We've
Yeah.
seen the mask that the big bad has.
Oh yeah, we've seen trailer 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. We were like, after this, we don't need to see anything else.
No, I
Nope.
don't want to see anything else. I just want to go into it and enjoy a Star Wars story, and I'm sure I will. It's going to be fun. And, actually, before you were on, Grant, Adam brought up the budget, which was revealed today. So it's what?
Okay.
8 episodes. We had information that
I think it's like
I think it was 30-minute episodes. Someone tweeted that
How many episodes are we talking?
I think it's 8.
8.
And they said they're around 30 minutes, so they're going to be short.
Yeah, they're Mandalorian length. It sounds like 'cause Mando is short
30
as
is
well.
short, man. I'd like a 40-minute episode if I can, as a minimum. But
I've been kind of digging. I gotta say, I've been kind of digging the lengths they're doing for the Star Wars. But I feel like more is more.
it's so
but I think we're
short, man. Like,
they are short.
I need some.
They are. I feel like
I need to dig my
that's
teeth.
fair.
Like I won't be happy till I can go back and rewatch the whole thing.
The
A
Ahsoka
lot
episode's
of
definitely
shows
longer.
now,
Just saying.
I wait until it's all out and then binge it. I just prefer to watch it that way. Though
Yeah.
I get that's like, all right, you watch the show, you ruminate on it, you think about it, you watch it again, and then like, listen, it's been fun, but like, still, 30 minutes is like, that's not enough time to do much.
It's a lot to think about for 7 days. I mean, it's a little bit to think about, a lot about for 7 days.
Yes.
But I think, budget wise, I think it averages out to about $22.5 million per episode, which is, I remember us on this podcast talking about the fact that Mando season 1 was $10 million an episode. So that's a pretty significant
Jump.
increase in budget. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mando's episodes were 35, 47 minutes, like roughly.
They were they were in the high 30s, I think was the kind of the average. Yeah, right around 40. But I also feel like the part of it is that what I've been hearing about this is that, which is similar to what they did with Ahsoka, is that it is not as reliant on the volume as the Mando, meaning that it's a lot of sets plus sets, exteriors plus the volume, which I think adds to the budget.
All you have to do is go inside, and then
That's
it
cool.
becomes a cheap thing, It's like it's when you're out in the world that, you start having to deal with these massive distances and scale and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. Backgrounds look gorgeous. Like, it doesn't feel hemmed in by the volume, like maybe some of the other shows do. And the costuming just looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, everything looks so cool.
Very reminiscent of vintage kung fu film, which is like kind of interesting play to take. I love that. But what I've seen so far very much looks like old kung fu films. Like, it's even a little sepia to me, like the tint on the shooting, which is pretty
That's cool. There's actually a really cool sort of director's interview between Filoni and Leslie Headland.
Oh yeah, what happened in that?
I want to say the Star Wars main site right now, but it's just a short little. I don't know if it was. I don't know where I saw it, but it was just a short little conversation about just the Acolyte and the broad outlook on the Acolyte and sort of Leslie Headland's sort of like direction as a creative and making the story. And she was just talking about how she's interested in the Sith
All right.
Yep.
Let's go.
Very much so. The Sith. She wanted to tell a story about the Sith.
Yeah.
And this doesn't give away anything from the show. This is just really cool, sort of broad stuff that she's talking about here. And then she also said that evil characters often don't see themselves as evil.
Obviously, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And I just thought that was really profound and interesting. And I thought about just sort of what that could mean with the show. And so that's very exciting.
Yeah, it seems like the Sith or the quote unquote bad guys are the protagonists of this story.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they'll
It's
see
from
themselves
their
as
point
victims
of
of the
view,
Jedi.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So 30 minutes maybe feels right to me because you want to keep the cliffhangers running and you want to veil the Sith in mystery as much as you can. I think 30 minutes actually sounds pretty right for a detective sort of mystery.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other word that keeps getting associated with the show. It's like a detective show.
You're going to be just, mouth-watering for more
Yeah.
after you watch an episode. And you're
Right.
going to want to discuss the mystery as it grows.
Right. So the do we get 2 episodes or 3?
2.
2.
2. Okay. All right. So that's an hour. That's a good chunk to sort of
Yeah.
wet our whistles there to get going. Next Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah. Very excited.
Tuesday?
That's what I
Yeah,
have. it.
Tuesday.
Uh-oh. All right.
June
That's
4th.
good. I just had it in my brain on Wednesday.
It's
That's awesome.
usually on Wednesdays, but I'm pretty sure it's for some
All right.
reason I have
No, I
Tuesday
buy
in
it.
my
Yeah, because you said it was the 4th, right?
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't even paying attention. Yeah, it's Tuesday. So interesting. That's great. That means one less day that I have to wait.
exactly
Than I
perfect.
thought. Yeah, I love it. That's exciting.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy the show's starting, like kicking off the summer. I hope it's a huge success because, like a lot of the movies, I don't know if you've been tracking sort of like weekend blockbuster budgets or grosses or anything like that at box office. It's not great, and so I'm just like, I hope Star Wars just takes the world by storm right now and
Yeah.
reignites sort of entertainment for a lot of people.
It would be kind of an interesting story if, like, right now people aren't going to the theaters; they're staying home and watching a Star Wars on the television, right?
Yeah.
Like it just kind of maybe.
I mean, yeah,
tells
they're
them
getting
to-
Star Wars, the greatest theatrical experience on on their devices, on their TVs.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like why go out? And yeah, that's a weird
Doesn't
angle.
that? Doesn't that just say then maybe it's time to get Star Wars back on the big screen, right?
Right.
Like that's
I think
kind of
that's
like
that'd hopefully be the impetus because
Yeah.
it's the setting it.
And I saw an ad today for like being able to watch the Acolyte like 2-episode premiere
Oh,
in
I saw that.
select
It's-
theaters. But it's like you
Yeah.
should just put it in theaters, man. Like why does it have to be
I don't know why I
select?
do that. Select.
Like the last
Yeah.
time they did that for Ahsoka, I showed up like a half an hour early and there was a line.
Yeah, there'd be a huge
out the
boom, but
block,
maybe
like-
not customer retention on Disney Plus, the app. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like
You could get both for
there would
me.
be a
though.
boom for theater going.
Yeah.
But that's the weird thing because I feel like you're also giving it away for free. Because I think the thing was like sign up for basically you just get kind of tickets to it. Where I'm just like put it like, okay, Furiosa is not burning up the box office right now. Like you can give a theater away for every multiplex for Monday night, Tuesday night, whatever. Sell tickets for $10 a pop, which is what you're paying for 1 month of Disney Plus anyway.
Right.
And then like it seems odd to be like, why not? Like it's
Free
found
money, yeah.
It feels
would
Or
like,
if you're
get
Disney,
double
or if
dips
this
for
is-
me.
if you want
Yeah.
to keep people,
Yeah.
keep it a sort of Disney Plus adjacent business, some sort of bundle into it all. It's like maybe with Disney Plus as a proven member with your email, like you get a discount on the ticket. Like there's a
Sure.
whole way
Yeah,
to do it.
like
that's
half
just,
price
like,
tickets or
making
$5
sure you're signing
yeah.
up.
Yeah, I mean, it could even come with a Disney Plus membership for 6 months or something. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense because they started this with the Clone Wars. Remember, like the first episode of the Clone Wars was a feature length, and they put it in theaters. So they flirted.
I went to go see
right?
it.
They flirted with this, but it's never become a mainstay. I mean, every new Star Wars series should have the first 2 or 3 episodes. Like, give us an hour and 10 to an hour and 30 minutes of content that you put in a theater to start out with.
And you don't have to. It'll be on your TV.
Yeah.
You don't have to go.
And it's like a
But,
jump off, and it's a way to get people to be like, oh, you know what? I do love Star Wars. I want to do the thing. And for all the Star Wars fans, which there are enough to like fill your coffers, like we'd all just be like, yeah, I want that experience. That's a good excuse to go out and eat some popcorn and
We went to the theater on Saturday night to go see a movie, and to go see Furiosa. And like, I'm not gonna talk about Furiosa, but like, I just walked past like 10 other theaters in this giant multiplex, and I'm like, well, that's some weird like Christian movie. That's some movie that's like a foreign language film that they're releasing in the United States, which is good. But like, you're just walking past it. It's like, I don't know what they're justifying putting into every single one of these theaters, that you can't just put something that you're just gonna like tap the nerd population.
Right. Like just get
like
money.
found money.
Like, do you hate money? Like just do the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's got to be some reason we're not thinking
You
about.
also want to strategically create droughts, so Deadpool Wolverine hits super hard. You're like, people are gonna.
Well, they're successful because that thing's
that.
coming in July, and there's like nothing between now and July. What else is coming out between now and July? What am I missing? Is there a big one?
So do like a
You mean
1
big in
week
IP?
run, like
Big
do like
IP?
a 1 week run of it. That'll be enough for people will be like, there's demand and people will want to do it, and then it's out of the theaters. It's not going to eat anyone's lunch. Just like a week of Star Wars to, give everyone money and make the nerds happy. Like,
I mean,
I
I am
doing
loving
2 episode premiere and then doing the finale in theaters makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And you give people the option. They can go or they don't go. But like it's you're just getting extra money from people. No one's gonna cancel Disney Plus to pay to go see episode 1, 2, and 8.
Right.
I think you'll have
season.
questions after watching in the theaters. Maybe something was too loud, or someone was making noise during a scene where you just want to hear it more clearly, or read the subtitles or something. You'll watch it again on Disney Plus.
I watch everything. Well, I mean, for this podcast, but I watch everything twice throughout the season. So
Also, it's all funny math. All the streaming stuff is just funny, made up, silly math. So like the math is very easy of just like, okay, for every ticket we sell to the Acolyte, we just add that number to the number of streams that would have been for the Acolyte.
Right.
We would just add that to the number.
Right.
That's the easiest math they've ever done. You know what? Double it or triple it, because you know what? It's all made up and doesn't matter anyway.
Oh, I see what you're
so
saying.
Say, you know what? Every time I buy it, it's just
right. It'll eat into the streaming numbers.
But it's easy to just fake those numbers anyway and just say like, yes, so there were 15 million tickets sold. We're adding 15 million streams to the number.
Right. Exactly.
That's how many people would have streamed it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Plus, we made an extra $150 million in ticket sales.
Right. And we really know how large our core base is, and all the other metrics. Anyways, this is too inside baseball, I think.
Anyways,
I
we're
love
excited
it.
for Acolyte. We'd like to see in theaters, but we'll all be watching it on Disney Plus.
I mean, it's fine. I'll be happy to
Day
watch
and
it
date.
at home. Yeah, it's great.
Anyways,
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about it, reviewing it right afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, actually, maybe we'll do maybe an early release next week if we can fit it into our schedules. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you're rock stars. It was a lot of fun hanging out and talking about all these things. We've had a lot of good, of these series. We've been spoiled. They're really kind of amazing.
I know.
This next one, it's like now they're just like piggybacking. It's like, oh, you made it this great. Well, then I'm going to do, they keep raising each other's games as it should be. And we're really in a golden age of Star Wars storytelling in all facets. And it just keeps getting better. Anyways, Sagrona, gentlemen.
Sagrona Tima.
Sagrona.
And
Tima.
to all of you at home as well, thanks for joining us at the Cantina. We will talk to you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.